Chapter 34:10. In the sky, the demon monkey didn't care about the people below. Its hostility soared to the sky as it swung its iron rod at the white tiger. So what if you're a divine beast? I'll beat you into submission. This was a kind of arrogance. It was just that domineering. Boom, 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 the iron rod continued to fall, and the white tiger only had the strength to parry. After a few hundred strikes, although the white tiger was not injured at all, its figure became illusory again. It no longer resisted, and instead stared fixedly at the demon monkey. Pung, with another strike of the rod, its figure instantly disappeared. The demon monkey pole stood proudly between the heavens and the earth, as if even if the heavens were to collapse, it would be able to lift it up by itself. However, its figure also became blurry and suddenly disappeared. The battle was over, in a shocking and dramatic way. Ling Han was still standing, but Hu Sihai had fallen. Who would have thought that the battle between the two of them would actually summon the demon saint from ancient times? A different kind of battle was carried out across the long river of history. Was the demon monkey stronger? Perhaps it was because Hu Saiping's white tiger bloodline was too thin, resulting in the summoned white tiger phantom's battle prowess being insufficient. Who knows? If such an existence were to come into being, it would be unimaginably terrifying. Not to mention anything else, the white tiger was larger than the heavenly starfish. As long as it smashed the heavenly starfish into pieces, who could survive? Ling Han, you're really special, said Princess Bai Xiao. You were able to resist the primordial demon sage's aura attack. What exactly is your background? Of course, she was exaggerating. The white tiger and demon monkey from before were only illusions. If they appeared in their true forms, the aura they emitted would not be something they could contend against. Ling Han smiled faintly. Princess is also very extraordinary. I admire you. There was killing intent in Princess Bai Xiao's eyes. Now that everyone had been stunned unconscious, if she killed Ling Han, there would be no witnesses, and she would be able to escape perfectly, throwing the blame to the two ancient demonic saints. As one of the parties involved, Ling Han was killed by White Tiger. Why didn't Hu Sihai die? It was very simple because White Tiger defeated Demon Monkey. She thought it over and decided it was feasible. Optical computer Hehe, under the attack of the two ancient demon sages, everyone's optical supercomputer was destroyed. On the surface, it was undamaged, but the key components were destroyed. Therefore, there was no way there would be any evidence left. Ling Han was alarmed. He knew that this demon race princess had tried to kill him several times already, and this time, she might have really seized the perfect opportunity. However, Ling Han smiled and said, "Sixth baby, give me a fruit." "Yes, father," Sixth baby answered crisply. Princess Bai Xiao's pupils constricted. She saw a fresh fruit float in the air and float towards Ling Han. This seemed to be the work of psyche power, but Princess Bai Xiao was certain that it was definitely not psyche power. This was because she had also released psyche power and did not discover any other psyche power within the fruit. She also heard Sixth baby's voice. Hiss, an existence that could turn invisible. Princess Bai Xiao immediately gave up on killing him. If she couldn't silence him, the risk was too great. Once Chen Fengyan found out, she would definitely be buried with him. So Master Ling still had such a trick up his sleeve. "This is really out of Bai Xiao's expectations," Princess Bai Xiao said lightly. Suddenly, her pretty face changed color and a layer of red appeared on it. "You're that thief." She had lost a spatial artifact, but until now she had not discovered how she had lost it. Moreover, because her undergarments were still inside, she did not even make a sound. Only now did she discover who this mysterious thief was. When she thought that Ling Han might have used his hands to touch her undergarments, she suddenly felt an indescribable shame and anger. Ling Han was stunned. He did not expect that in order to intimidate this demon race princess, he would accidentally expose the fact that he once had an acupoint. However, he naturally denied it and shook his head righteously. "I don't know what you're talking about, princess." Keep pretending. Keep pretending." Princess Bai Xiao snorted. She had already determined that Ling Han was the thief. Of course, the one who had done it was Sixth baby. She really wanted to see what this sixth baby looked like. Ling Han spread his hands and said, "You're really trying to incriminate me. I say, Your Highness, you can't wrongly accuse an innocent person." Sixth baby stuck out his tongue and thought that this father was really shameless. However, she liked it. It would be too boring if he followed the rules. Ling Han walked in front of Hu Si-hai and stopped his footsteps. "What do you want to do?" Princess Bai Xiao asked with a cold tone. If Ling Han dared to take the opportunity to hurt Hu Si-hai, she would definitely not sit back and watch. Although the demon race was a vassal, they would definitely not allow themselves to be slaughtered by the human race. Ling Han smiled and took out a brush. He drew a few strokes on Hu Si-hai's head and said, "Don't worry. I am not taking the opportunity to kill him." When Princess Bai Xiao saw this, she could not help but feel angry and amused. At this moment, everyone woke up one by one. Those with high cultivation and talent woke up early, while those with low cultivation and talent woke up later. However, there was not much difference between early and late. It was just a few minutes. What happened just now? I think I saw a huge white tiger, even bigger than a planet. There was also a demon monkey that seemed to be holding up the sky. The demon monkey and the white tiger started fighting. Then we fainted. Everyone talked at once and gradually pieced together what happened before. "You fainted? You fainted too." Ling Han waved at Princess Bai Xiao and said, "Come, my bet." "I did not lose." Hu Si-hai roared. Ling Han chuckled and pointed at Hu Si-hai's forehead. Hu Si-hai was stunned and looked at the person beside him, only to see that person laughing. "What do you mean? What's so funny about me?" "Brother Hu, on your forehead." That person wanted to say something but stopped. Haha. Everyone was still shocked by the white tiger and the demon monkey, but after being reminded, many eyes fell on Hu Si-hai's face, and they immediately laughed. Hu Si-hai did not know the situation and quickly went to find a mirror. When he looked, he almost fainted from anger. It turned out that there was a king character drawn on his forehead. Needless to say, it was definitely done by Ling Han. This meant that if the other party wanted to take his life, it would be a piece of cake. But damn, what do you mean by drawing the word king? Do you think I am a tiger? Although I am indeed a tiger, it feels very awkward to have the word king drawn on my face. He was too ashamed to see anyone and quickly flew away. Princess Bai Xiao had no choice but to throw the green algae gold to Ling Han. Ling Han coughed and said, "If you want to challenge me, you can register with Xianyuan Dingua. I will reply within 3 days whether I accept the challenge or not. However, don't forget my rules. Remember to state clearly what you want to bet." Chapter 34:12. Xianyuan Dingua quickly left. But as soon as he left, another person appeared behind him. It was an old man dressed in eunuch attire. He had appeared without a sound, like a ghost. The 7 Calabash brothers were prepared to attack, as though they were facing a great enemy. "So it's Senior Zhu." Ling Han cupped his hands. This was the old eunuch Zhu Qi, a secret realm cultivator. No one knew how long he had been in the palace, and no one even knew of his existence. He could be said to be the strongest cultivator after Chen Fengyan, and yet he was willing to cripple a eunuch? It was unimaginable. Zhu Qi looked at the 7 Calabash brothers, who were actually 6, and smiled. "Young man, you really are blessed. You've even encountered the fortune of heaven and earth." Ling Han just chuckled. "You don't know how troublesome it is to raise children without raising them. None of these 7 were easy to please. They were all little devils. But if he really said it, wouldn't he be stabbing the others root in pain?" Thus, Ling Han very tactfully only smiled. Otherwise, he would definitely be violently beaten. "This old servant is here on His Majesty's orders to give you something," Zhu Qi said. Zhu Qi spoke. He stretched out his hand and wiped it on the table, and a jade slip appeared out of thin air. It was obviously quite old and emitted an ancient aura. Given by His Majesty? Ling Han was surprised. Wasn't the Saint Emperor in seclusion? His Majesty's cultivation is profound. Although he is in seclusion, his thoughts are omnipotent and omnipotent, Zhu Qi said, his face full of admiration. Don't tell me you're so infatuated with Chen Fengyan that you're willing to cut off your dick and enter the palace to accompany him? Ling Han couldn't help but shiver. This scene was a bit too beautiful, and he didn't dare to think about it anymore. What is this? He asked. A formation, Zhu Qi said. His Majesty said that you have to comprehend it on your own. No one can help you. However, there are still some materials needed to make the foundation of the formation and some blood. As long as you can understand this formation, you can make it. He then took out a piece of metal the size of a human head and a jade jar. Even though it was covered, one could still see the terrifying blood energy rising from it. In order to create an array, the materials for the array foundation and ink were also necessary. The higher the level of the magic array, the higher the quality of the materials needed. The ink also needed the blood of a high-level existence. It could be said that the basic body of the magic array was incomparably expensive. If the magic array failed even once, it would be a huge waste. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Senior Zhu. Ling Han hurriedly said. Zhu Qi nodded and said, His Majesty does indeed look favorably upon you. This jar contains the precious blood of a demon emperor. If you consume it, it will be enough to greatly increase your level of life. His Majesty didn't bestow it to his children, but gave it to you to refine the array foundation. Obviously, he has high expectations for you. Ling Han was astonished. This was actually the blood of a demonic sovereign. It seemed that the demonic sovereign didn't just spar with Chen Fengyan and get beaten up. Instead, he was beaten so badly that he was forced to bleed. That was true. Otherwise, how could a dignified demonic sovereign be subdued? I understand. Ling Han nodded. Zhu Qi looked deeply at Ling Han. He actually didn't understand why Chen Fengyan valued Ling Han so much. It was obvious that Hong Tianbu was more outstanding in martial art, and his realm was higher. Shouldn't he properly nurture Hong Tianbu? His Majesty said that one should do things with a clear conscience. Then one can do whatever they want. He then relayed. Ling Han smiled. Chen Fengyan's personality was really to his liking. He nodded again. Zhu Qi coughed and said, This old servant is leaving. No need to send me off. He didn't let Ling Han send him off. With a flash, he was already out the door. The old eunuch stood on the treetop and looked around. He murmured, Strange. Where is that innate divine body? We've been searching for so long, but we still can't find it. He would never have thought that the innate divine body that he had been longing for was actually right under his nose. It was just that it wasn't a newborn baby, but an adult man. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never think of Ling Han. After Zhu Qi left, Ling Han began to study the jade scroll. Father, this blood smells so good. The 7 Calabash brothers climbed onto the table and sniffed. Damn, blood can also smell good. Are you all vampires? Ling Han hurriedly picked up the jar. Since Chen Fengyan thought so highly of him, he naturally had to create this array to be worthy of Chen Fengyan's appreciation. He couldn't let the 7 milk babies drink it. He must have stepped onto the immortal path. Otherwise, the blood wouldn't be able to remove all the fishy smell. It's like the great Dao fine wine, eldest brother commented. Second brother activated his eye sorcery and looked for a while. He said, There's a lot of vitality in the blood. It contains a trace of immortal path aura. He has indeed crossed the immortal path. What secrets could he hide in front of these milk babies? Ling Han sighed and said, This is the material to create the foundation of the formation. You can't have any designs on it. Oh, father. The 7 milk babies were all dejected. Ling Han was very relieved. Although the 7 babies were very naughty, they were true to their words. He didn't have to worry about them being hypocritical. Also, no matter how precious this blood is, it's still blood. You can't have designs on it in the future, he warned them solemnly. Understood, father. The 7 Calabash brothers nodded again. Ling Han was relieved. There were many delicacies in the world. Why would he want to have designs on blood? He let the 7 milk babies play by themselves. He then began to study the jade scroll. There was a formation recorded on it. It was called absolute fairness. It was very simple. Once the formation was activated, everyone in the formation would be pulled to the same level. This kind of formation was not rare. There was an ancient formation like this in the ancient Tao sect. However, the ones they had now were only the foundation of the formation. No one knew how to create it. Moreover, this formation was very large. However, the absolute fairness recorded on the Jade Scroll was different. Although it required a total of 49 formation foundations, they were very small. Moreover, they could be placed on clothes. Once it was activated, it could pull all living beings within a radius of 30 meters to the same level. It was based on those with lower levels. Therefore, this was absolute fairness. It was a battle between people of the same level. Of course, the formation had an upper limit. However, it was as high as the secret-seeking realm. Moreover, there was a time limit. It could only last for 10 minutes. After it was used once, it needed up to a day to recharge. If it's 10 minutes, there's no one in the same level that I can't handle. Ling Han smiled. As long as I create this formation, I'll be able to fight against Yuan Ying. He focused on studying the formation. It was very complicated. Not only did it require formation patterns that surpassed the extreme limit, but it also required an incomparably complicated combination of various formation patterns. It was impossible for ordinary people to remember it. The requirement for spiritual power was too high. However, Ling Han was tireless. His interest was piqued and he was completely immersed in it. Chapter 34:13. It wasn't until Ling Han felt extremely hungry that he woke up. His body suddenly felt empty. He went out to find something to eat and realized that 2 days had passed. No wonder he was so hungry. He had wasted 2 precious cultivation sessions. Ling Han set up a reminder on the optical computer every day when the sun rose, so he couldn't miss cultivation time. After eating, he went to study arrays. He was indeed a genius array master. After 10 days, he had already grasped the basics of absolute fairness. Ling Han began to draw, but he didn't use the metal, nor did he use the Demon Emperor's precious blood. Instead, he used a normal brush and ink on a piece of paper. After 3 days, he wasted a lot of his drawings, but his confidence grew. On the 5th day, Ling Han decided to officially start drawing. He had already asked Xinyuan Dinghua to help him cut open the metal and forge it into 49 jade-like pieces. Ling Han opened the jar. Instantly, a dense mist rose and turned into the shape of a spirit monkey. It was vivid and lifelike, and at the same time, a fragrant aroma wafted over. It smelled really good. Ling Han finally understood why the 7 babies were so greedy. Because even he wanted to drink it. Unfortunately, it was blood. Ling Han shook his head. He definitely wouldn't be a savage or a beast. He dipped the brush in ink and began drawing. The array pattern had to be drawn in one go. If the brush stopped or the drawing was not done properly, it would affect the communication with the forces of heaven and earth, thus affecting the power of the array. The first piece, success. The second piece, success. The third piece, the 9th piece, failure. Ling Han couldn't help but feel a heartache. Although one failure wouldn't destroy the array itself, the ink would be useless. This was precious blood. Ling Han washed the array, wiped it dry, and started drawing again. He had to wash off the blood as soon as possible. Otherwise, once it dried, it would become a flaw and affect the power of the array. Ling Han entered a state of complete focus again. Although the optical computer reminded him, he still didn't notice and missed another sunrise. Fortunately, all 49 array foundations had been completed. He had imprinted these ornaments on the special material that was used to bind the precipice array. This material was incomparably tough and didn't fear the impact of gravity. Otherwise, even if the opponent was at the extreme bone realm, the opponent would be able to shatter the clothes on his body in just a few moves, and the array would be broken instantly. Let's give it a try. Ling Han went to the academy to call the little maid back and began to test the formation. He activated the spell formation, and a surge of power connected to heaven and earth, immediately forming a pressure that surpassed all. Ling Han's cultivation base was immediately reduced to 7 transformations. The blood transformation realm, the same as the little handmaiden. However, The little handmaiden was only at the 2nd transformation, while he was at the 7th transformation. This meant that this wasn't an absolute fairness, but a fairness between realms. Enough. With a thought, Ling Han grabbed the fat pig. He wanted to know the cultivation level of the fat pig. At the very least, he wanted to know if it was high or low. The strange thing was that this kind of suppression had no effect on the fat pig. In other words, it was as good as not existing. The formation ignored it. It was strange and bizarre. What kind of secret was hidden on this pig's body? Damn pig, if only you could speak. Ling Han sighed, and a thought flashed through his mind. Could he get a transformation fruit from the beast race for this pig to eat? It didn't matter whether it could take human form or not. The key was that it could speak. He found Xinyuan Baogua and told him to pass a message to the demon race, saying that he had accepted Yuan Ying's challenge, and the battle would begin at noon on the 3rd day. When the news spread, it caused quite a stir in the imperial capital. Who was Yuan Ying? A genius of the demon race. His cultivation base was at the engravement realm, but his battle prowess could reach the enlightenment realm. He was thought by the demon race to be a strong competitor that could take down Hong Tianbu. But now, Ling Han, this little guy, who had just entered the extreme bone realm, actually wanted to challenge such a colossus. Wasn't he looking for a beating? Throughout history, even from ancient texts, there was no genius who had battle prowess that surpassed 2 major realms. Therefore, Ling Han was bound to lose. But he still wanted to accept the challenge. Was his brain muddled? People like Lian Xuerong, Yin Xiujing, and the others came to find him, telling him not to accept the challenge. No matter how he thought about it, he had no chance of winning. But how could Ling Han listen? Very soon, Yuan Ying made a response. 1 day passed, and absolute fairness could already be used again. Ling Han smiled, and everyone was just waiting to be shocked. The night passed, and Ling Han first cultivated for a while. Then he set off for Princess Bai Zhao's residence. Yes, the battle would be held here. Ling Han arrived just in time. He saw that there was already a sea of people here. Other than the younger generation of the demon race, there were also many important figures of the human race. Ling Han even saw the 7th prince, the 3rd prince, and so on. He had more dealings with the 7th imperial prince, and knew that he was a character with the nature of an ambitious and ruthless person, but the 7th imperial prince actually came here, and when he looked at Princess Jade Sky, his face was filled with adoration, which surprised Ling Han. Damn, the charm of this demon race princess is too great. Even the 7th prince, an ambitious and ruthless person, has become soft and gentle. Princess Bai Zhao smiled, and her charm was infinite. She led the conversation and became the center of attention, making everyone proud to be able to look at her. Her charm was indeed great. Ling Han is here, someone said. Someone said. At this time, everyone withdrew their gazes from Princess Bai Zhao and looked towards Ling Han. Yuan Ying strode out and said, "Come, let's finish this quickly." Ling Han smiled and said, 10 seconds? Instantly, Yuan Ying's face turned red. Previously, he had arranged a battle with Ling Han, saying that he would kill Ling Han within 10 seconds. However, first it was Little Pink Pig, and then it was 3rd Baby. Both of them could easily block his attacks for 10 seconds, and when it was Ling Han's turn, Little Pink Pig used all sorts of tricks. Formations, treasured armor, and all sorts of tricks managed to block his attacks for a good few seconds. Now that Ling Han had mentioned these 10 seconds, it was obvious that he was laughing at him. "You'll regret this," Yuan Ying said coldly. His intuition told him that Ling Han had done something to anger Princess Bai Zhao. This made him, a loyal admirer, extremely unhappy. Ling Han had to die. "What's the wager?" Ling Han asked. Yuan Ying took out a green bamboo. There were only 3 sections and it was about a meter long. He put it on the stone table and sneered, "Can you take it?" "Not enough. I still need another transformation fruit," Ling Han said. Yuan Ying was immediately angered. "You're too greedy, aren't you?" Moreover, the transformation fruit was also very precious in the demon race. There were millions of demon warriors, but only 1,000 could transform. The demon race couldn't even get a share, and you still want a share? So stingy. Forget it, I won't fight. Ling Han shook his head and turned to leave. Stop right there. Yuan Ing hurriedly called out. How could he be willing to let Ling Han be so shameless? Chapter 34:14. Yuan Ing added another transformation fruit. Thankfully, he was a genius of the Yao race. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have a transformation fruit when he had already taken human form. Though he was extremely furious, after thinking about it, he would definitely win anyway, so did he need to care? Yuan Ing also did not care what Ling Han was betting. In any case, his goal was to beat up Ling Han, and it would be best if he could cripple this human. Is this enough? He asked in a low voice. Ling Han grinned and beckoned with his finger. Come. Yuan Ing strode toward Ling Han. Hong, he released his aura completely. From blood purification, ultimate bone, all the way to inscription, he had already experienced 3 huge leaps in the level of life. In essence, he had far surpassed Ling Han. This was especially so in the inscription realm. By inscribing Tao patterns on the organs in one's body, one could absorb and draw upon the power of heaven and earth. The leap in battle prowess was incredibly terrifying. He pushed his battle prowess as much as he could. Once he made his move, he would defeat Ling Han with the force of a thunderbolt, and would not give his opponent the slightest chance. Just a human, he said in disdain. These words caused the expressions of the spectators to change, and they revealed expressions of anger. You, a subject who had surrendered, still dared to speak so arrogantly? But honestly speaking, in the inscription realm, apart from Hong Tianbu, who else could contend against him? The Yao race was indeed strong below the celestial path. This point had to be admitted. Ling Han smiled slightly. Just because of these words of yours, I will definitely beat you until you cry. Daydreaming. Yuan Ing walked closer and closer. His body was slender and not muscular, but there seemed to be a great dragon hidden within his body, exuding an incredibly powerful aura. Now, it's time to wake up from your dream. He leaped over and punched toward Ling Han. Ling Han's mind moved, and absolute fairness was immediately activated. Wang, a supreme power surged, and everything within 100 feet became fair. What? Yuan Ing could not help but cry out in shock, because he discovered that his cultivation level had actually dropped straight down to the 6th step of the ultimate bone realm. That's right, he had also broken through the limits of the ultimate bone realm. Otherwise, how could he be monstrous enough to challenge Hong Tianbu? He immediately calmed down. So what if he was at the 6th level of the extremity bone? He still held a great advantage, and his level of life far surpassed that of Ling Han. He let out a loud roar, and without stopping, he punched out again. What's the situation? Why did Yuan Ying's aura suddenly drop so much? Everyone found it strange. Experts like the third prince immediately narrowed their eyes. They had seen more things. Princess Bai Zhao's beautiful eyes narrowed. She had already guessed the reason. Get lost. Ling Han roared. He also clenched his fist and punched towards Yuan Ing. The 2 bursts of power collided, instantly triggering an intense collision. The power of Yuan Yan's fist immediately crumbled, while Ling Han pushed the power of his fist over, and with a peng, Yuan Yan was immediately sent flying. Ling Han chased after him. Absolute fairness had a range restriction, and he could not allow Yuan Ing to be more than 30 meters away from him. Otherwise, his cultivation level would be restored. Xiao, at 3 times the speed of sound, Ling Han had already caught up to Yuan Ing and punched out again. Yuan Ing met the attack, but how could he block the stacking of the 50 layers of the demon monkey fist? Peng, he flew up again. Ling Han chased after him, his fists punching out continuously. Peng, Peng, Peng. Yuan Ing could only be beaten up. In a battle of the same cultivation level, Ling Han's invincibility did not need any conditions. So what if Yuan Ing was 5 minor levels higher? So what? This was just a one-sided slaughter. Everyone was dumbfounded. Who could have imagined this? Could it be that Ling Han was so strong that he could be invincible across 2 major levels? Look, there's a glow on his body, someone said unhurriedly, revealing the truth. That's a treasured armor. There's a formation set on it, and it forcibly pulled Yuan Ying's cultivation level down to the ultimate bone tier. In other words, This is a fair battle of the ultimate bone tier. No, Yuan Ying actually still has an advantage. Right now, he's not at 1 bone but 5. Even so, he's still no match. This can only mean that Ling Han is so strong that he's nature-defying. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, unable to say a word. Yuan Ying wanted to challenge Hong Tianbu. Both of them were in the engravement tier, and it could be seen how confident Yuan Ying was. But now, Ling Han and Yuan Ying were both in the ultimate bone tier, and Yuan Ying even had the advantage of a few minor levels, yet he was completely no match for Ling Han. What kind of genius was he? No one knew that Ling Han had broken through to 7 changes, and this had even caused a phenomenon in the heavens and the earth. Even the heavens and the earth had been startled, and it could be seen how terrifying this step was. This gave Ling Han absolute confidence. In a battle of the same cultivation level, without any preconditions, he was absolutely invincible. And this was indeed the case. Ling Han gave chase, his fists swinging with terrifying power. So what if it was Yuan Ying? He could only take a beating. 10 minutes was enough for him to beat this opponent into dregs. In truth, it was only 5 minutes at most before Princess Bai Xiao stopped the battle and admitted defeat on Yuan Ying's behalf. She couldn't bear to watch. This was a one-sided abuse. Ling Han smiled and swept his gaze over the demons, saying indifferently, "Who else wants to challenge me?" He had easily defeated Yuan Ying, and he was like a great demon god, pressing down on everyone's hearts and making it hard for them to breathe. Ling Han picked up the bamboo and the transformed fruit on the stone table and swaggered off. No one knew that the 10 minutes were almost up. If any more experts challenged Ling Han, then absolute fairness would no longer be in effect. However, although Ling Han had left, the heavy bomb that he had thrown down caused everyone to seethe with excitement. This person can pull others to the same level as him. He's unparalleled in the same cultivation level. Who can match him? Isn't that unparalleled? How can there be such a formation? Won't it make others' bitter cultivation go up in smoke? You worked so hard to reach such a high level, but someone's formation could knock you down to the bottom. Who could accept this? Princess Bai Xiao pondered for a moment before saying, "This is absolute fairness. It's a simplified version of a cultivation-suppressing formation. It was originally a large-scale formation used by ancient sects to select outstanding disciples, but a brilliant formation master simplified it. It can be attached to clothes and affect the people nearby. However, the area it can affect is limited, and the time it can be used is also limited. Less than half an hour. Although she wasn't completely accurate, she could already be called knowledgeable. As expected of Princess Bai Xiao, she's so knowledgeable. So this kid's formation can only be used for a limited time. No wonder he ran after saying that. If anyone else challenges him, the formation won't be able to use its power. Damn, we were intimidated by this guy. The demons were all regretting their decision. Chapter 34:16. Xianyuan Dinghua blabbered on, but Ling Han ignored him. Ling Han didn't care if this guy misunderstood him or not. The ones who would affect Ling Han were the 7th prince and the others who had real power and terrifying strength. In the empire, other than the 4 marshals, even the chairman and grand tutor Hong weren't allowed to have private soldiers. However, this restriction didn't apply to the princes. As long as you had enough wealth and charm, you could expand your strength however you wanted. This seemed to be Qin Fengyan's intention to test his sons, letting them compete and choose the most suitable person to inherit the throne. The princes at the bottom of the rankings were not talented enough, and they had missed the best period of development, so they could be completely ignored. However, the princes at the top, especially the top 10 princes, all possessed great strength, and they had many talented subordinates. So, if the 7th prince and the others targeted him, Ling Han would be in trouble. Luckily, his current strength was enough to sweep away inscription masters. Even if it was the 7th prince and the others, could they have an opening realm subordinate? Maybe, but they were definitely rare. Ling Han could use absolute fairness to lower the opponent's realm and kill them easily. But if the princes teamed up and attacked him, then it would be troublesome. After all, absolute fairness could only be used for 10 minutes, and once it was activated, it couldn't be stopped. This little girl. Ling Han was calculating in his mind, trying to figure out how to solve this difficult problem. But as soon as Xian Yuan Dingwa left, the seventh prince walked over. "Greetings, your highness." Ling Han cupped his fists. The seventh prince nodded and said with a serious expression, "Ling Han, how did I treat you?" "What was this?" Ling Han smiled. "Your highness treated me well." Previously, he had indeed been able to, and had even gifted Ling Han with a lightning-light fist. However, with the demonic race pressuring them, he had made the choice to protect himself. This allowed Ling Han to clearly see his ambitious and ruthless nature, and he subconsciously distanced himself from him. The seventh prince pondered for a while and said, "I've heard some rumors recently." "I wonder what kind of rumors your highness has heard?" Ling Han asked, feeling a little tired. "If you have a problem, can't you just say it? Don't you find it tiring to beat around the bush like this?" The seventh prince glanced at him. "I heard that you are very close to Princess Baishao." "There's no such thing," Ling Han denied flatly. The seventh prince nodded. "That would be for the best. You should know that the monster princess is here for marriage and can only be married to one prince. If you interfere, people will laugh at you for overestimating yourself, and all the princes will see you as their enemy." This was a blatant threat. Ling Han was unhappy, but he just smiled and didn't answer. "This world belongs to the Chen family. No matter how I and my brothers fight, it will not change." The seventh prince patted Ling Han's shoulder. "So, you must know your place and adjust your mentality." This meant that no matter how outstanding you were still a citizen of Xianbei country, a dog of the Chen family. With the seventh prince's ambitious and ruthless nature, he shouldn't have said such words. It would definitely hurt Ling Han and affect their relationship. But he was probably too infatuated with Princess Baishao, so he couldn't care less. The monster princess's charm was really great. "Take care." The seventh prince didn't give Ling Han a chance to argue and turned to leave. Ling Han's eyes flickered with anger. He never accepted threats, and although the seventh prince looked young, he was at least 90 years old. Wasn't this like an old cow robbing the cradle? "Father, let's rush up and kill him." Eldest brother's killing intent surged. "Yes, kill him." The fourth brother and fifth brother nodded in unison. Ling Han couldn't help but smile. "I'll handle this. You kids go play." "Father, we're not kids," eldest brother argued, puffing out his chest. Ling Han was amused, and he stroked eldest child's head. But the trouble wasn't over yet. Not long after, the ninth prince's servant arrived with a letter. The content of the letter was basically for Ling Han to be more tactful and stay away from Princess Baishao. He didn't want to cause trouble for himself. The wording was very forceful, completely commanding, and full of threats. After a while, Ling Han received the fifth prince's letter. The content was almost the same, but the wording was just as forceful. There were also letters from the fourth imperial prince, the sixth imperial prince, the 10th imperial prince, and the third imperial prince. The letters on Ling Han's table had already piled up to a very high height. All the princes with a bit of power and influence were issuing warnings to Ling Han. All right, Ling Han took a look. Now, it wasn't that there were a few princes threatening him, but rather that there were still a few princes who hadn't threatened him. The Chen family was the most terrifying family in the world. Chen Fengyan had already stepped onto the path of immortality and looked down on all living things. "I can only deal with it at the source," Ling Han murmured. The night passed, and Ling Han cultivated in the morning, pretending that nothing had happened. Then he studied formations and opened his furnace to concoct alchemical pills. Extreme Bone Tier naturally had pill recipes suitable for Extreme Bone Tier cultivators, though the number was relatively small. Very soon, it was night, and Princess Baishao came again. She didn't come quietly. With her strength as a mystery seeker, if she didn't want others to know, she could definitely come without anyone noticing. However, she had sent a luxurious carriage. She didn't want to be too conspicuous. It was as if this demon beast princess had entered her own home. She came to the living room with ease and familiarity, and sat down in an elegant manner. She did not need Ling Han to serve tea, as she had prepared her own tea and snacks, as if she was afraid that Ling Han would poison her. She indeed had to be careful because Ling Han was a 4-star alchemist, so it wasn't strange for him to make some poison. Princess Bai Zhao's gaze swept over the 6 bottle-gourd brothers, a sliver of curiosity in her eyes. She knew how powerful these children were, and this was also what shocked her. They were so powerful at such a young age, so how powerful would they be in the future? Ling Han, I heard that many princes have come to find you, she said indifferently as she retracted her gaze. I've received many letters. Ling Han pointed at the pile of letters on the table. Princess Bai Zhao smiled sweetly. She was too confident in her own charm. It looks like you're in a very bad situation. It's all thanks to you, Ling Han said calmly. Princess Bai Zhao was surprised. Ling Han's temperament was really calm. This was the most basic but also very difficult quality to become an elite. She valued Ling Han even more, but her pretty face didn't show it. Ling Han, you only have 2 choices now. 1, you'll be killed by those princes. I know you have absolute fairness, but I believe that it can't be used for more than half an hour, and it takes a long time to recharge. You can block 1 elite, but can you block a 2nd, or a 3rd? 2, you submit to me. As long as you submit to me and join the demon race, I will naturally protect you. Ling Han smiled and said, Indeed, your highness is a mystery seeker and can guarantee my safety. Chapter 34:17. Then you agree? Princess Bai Zhao revealed a look of anticipation. Once Ling Han submitted, it meant that he would be given a demon monkey fist. She had seen the power of the demon monkey fist with her own eyes. It could even attract ancient demon sages, which filled her with greed. Ling Han laughed and said, I have a 3rd choice. What? Princess Bai Zhao was stunned. Where was the 3rd choice? Ling Han said leisurely, the 3rd choice is for me to take you in. Since you are my person, you will naturally protect my safety. I am quite assured with a secret-seeking expert as my bodyguard. What are you daydreaming about? Princess Bai Zhao almost slapped him. You are too imaginative. You actually want to take me in? Why don't you go to heaven? You really know how to think, she said through gritted teeth. Ling Han smiled. Are you really thinking too much? He sized up Princess Jade Sky from head to toe, unscrupulously saying, Your figure is not bad, you can just barely be my servant girl. How dare you? Princess Bai Zhao stood up and was about to attack. Ling Han shook his finger. Your Highness, you said it yourself just now. I am absolutely fair. If an expert comes, I can easily deal with him. So, if I take you down and cook the rice, what will your Highness choose? Princess Bai Zhao's pretty face changed. Although she was also a genius, Ling Han should be even more monstrous. If they fought at the same realm, she would probably be suppressed by Ling Han even if she had the advantage of a small realm. Yuan Ying had already proved this point. She had calculated everything, but she never expected that Ling Han would take the risk out of desperation. You don't dare, she said through gritted teeth. Why wouldn't I dare? Ling Han said indifferently. You've said it yourself. I can block 1 wave of attacks from those imperial princes, but I won't be able to block the 2nd and 3rd wave. I'll be killed eventually, so why shouldn't I take the risk? Princess Bai Zhao felt that she had been too clever for her own good. The words she used to threaten Ling Han were now used on her. Was this retribution? But wasn't it too fast? She was speechless. Indeed, if she couldn't even keep her life, why would she be afraid to take a gamble? All right, from tomorrow onwards, I won't come here anymore. Princess Bai Zhao was a flexible person. Ling Han shook his head and said, I've changed my mind. Your Royal Highness is so beautiful and charming. I think it's better to take you in as a maid. At night, someone will hug you when I sleep, and you can also act as a bodyguard. And not bad. Not bad, your sister. Even Princess Bai Zhao wanted to curse. She was a princess, a princess. She forcefully suppressed her anger and said, The upper limit of absolute fairness is the secret-seeking realm. It might not be able to exert its full effect on me. It's impossible for you to suppress me within half an hour. Oh, then you can try. Ling Han smiled, but he did not use absolute fairness. This was a form of deterrence. Its strategic use was greater than its practical use. Once it was used, neither side would have a way out. Princess Bai Xiao was going crazy, but she had to suppress her impulse. Then what do you want? Your Royal Highness, do you have any treasured fruits? I'm just a greedy person. Besides, I've eaten from others, so it's easy to get rid of me. Ling Han smiled. Princess Bai Xiao really wanted to punch Ling Han's face. She was here to threaten Ling Han, but in the end she was the one being threatened. She took a deep breath and said, I don't have any treasured fruits. They've all been stolen by you. At the mention of the theft, she couldn't help but glare at Ling Han. She didn't know if this brat had used her underwear to do some unspeakable dirty business. Ling Han looked righteous. I say, Your Royal Highness, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. What kind of person am I? Why would I do such a shady business? Hee. Princess Bai Xiao had yet to say anything, but the 7 milk babies were the first to undermine Ling Han, giggling. Princess Bai Xiao sneered and didn't say anything. Ling Han could only sigh. His own people weren't good enough. He thought for a moment and said, If you don't have any treasured fruits, then there's only one way. I believe that your Royal Highness should have a lot of spirit maps. I'm not greedy. Just give me 8 or 10 sets and you'll be able to get rid of me. Why don't you go and die? Princess Bai Xiao looked at Ling Han. Why didn't she realize that Ling Han was actually shameless to such an extent? Spirit maps? Do you think they're cabbages that can be bought with 8 or 10 sets? However, she also knew that it was impossible to get through this without losing some blood. Although this human was a ruffian, there was a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. It was a kind of determination that made her palpitate. 1 spirit map, she said, gnashing her teeth. Ling Han observed her expression and knew that this was already Princess Bai Xiao's limit. He also knew when to stop and said, All right, 1 spirit map. Princess Bai Xiao waved her slender hand, and a jade slip flew towards Ling Han. When Ling Han reached out to catch it, she took the opportunity to jump out of the living room and stood in the courtyard. This distance was beyond the influence of absolute fairness. Ling Han took the jade slip and scanned it with his divine sense. He couldn't help but smile. Your Highness is really trustworthy. This was indeed a spirit map, and it triggered the energy of flames. As for its level, it was temporarily unknown. Princess Bai Xiao changed her previous anger and smiled sweetly. She said, Ling Han, oh Ling Han, I'm really interested in you now. If you can defeat all the princes, I don't mind considering you. She floated up and flew. The speed of the secret realm was astonishing, and she disappeared in an instant. Ling Han bared his teeth. He didn't expect this demon princess to have the potential to be a demon. Her last sentence made his heart flutter. Moreover, if you want to leave, at least take your carriage with you. Leaving it at my door for a night? Isn't that making me look bad? But Princess Bai Xiao had already run away, and he couldn't threaten her at all. It seems that this little girl wants to slander me to death, Ling Han murmured. In that case, if she falls into my hands in the future, hee. Father, what do you want? Eldest baby asked curiously. What do you mean? Second baby also asked. The 7 Calabash brothers were full of curiosity, and they all looked at Ling Han with curiosity. Even though Ling Han was thick-skinned, he still blushed slightly and hurriedly ran away. He returned to the house and began to study the newly obtained spirit map. This spirit map communicated with the energy of flames. Ling Han spent some time to master it, and then with a thought, a crimson flame appeared on his fist, burning and boiling. Of course, there were differences in strength between flames. Ling Han compared it with 4th baby, and the result was that he didn't even have a 10th of the latter's power. 5th baby, on the other hand, spat, and the flame was extinguished. Sigh, how could the high-level energy communicated by spirit maps compare to natural remarkable power? Chapter 34:18. However, the news that Princess Bai Xiao had spent a whole night at Ling Han's house spread like wildfire the next day and quickly spread throughout the capital. Who was the most popular person in the capital now? It was not Hong Tianbu, nor was it Ling Han, but rather this demon princess, As long as she had a normal sexual orientation, any man would have feelings for her. This flower had not fallen into anyone else's hands, which meant that everyone had a chance, even if the chance was extremely slim. But now, Princess Bai Xiao had actually spent the night at Ling Han's house. Damn, this made all men regard Ling Han as their public enemy. Ordinary people only said a few words out of anger, but people like the seventh prince were full of killing intent. In their view, no matter how high Ling Han's achievements were, he was just a dog of the Chen family. Now this dog did not listen to their warnings and wanted to compete with them for a woman. How could they not be angry? If it were not for the fact that Ling Han was a double grandmaster, he would have been sent to prison and killed on a random charge. Others did not dare to act so recklessly, but obviously these princes dared. Only Chen Fengyan could restrain them, but Chen Fengyan often went into seclusion, which gave them the courage to act recklessly. However, Ling Han had only slept with Princess Bai Xiao, which couldn't be considered a crime. No prince could possibly mobilize an army because of this and openly kill him. In terms of assassination, Ling Han's own combat strength could sweep away those in the engravement realm. Coupled with a formation like absolute fairness, few people could suppress him. Therefore, those princes hated Ling Han to death, but for the time being, they could not do anything to him. Right at this moment, several earthquakes occurred in the imperial capital. Although there weren't many casualties, it caused a complete interruption of communication. 7 days later, news came from all over the capital. It turned out that not only the capital had an earthquake, but the entire heavenly sea star was undergoing a drastic change. After the earthquake, more historical sites saw the light of day, and there were also treasured fruits. An ordinary person accidentally ate one and directly rushed to the engravement realm, which was amazing. There were also people who were herding goats. One of the ordinary goats ate a stalk of strangely colored grass, and a violent mutation occurred. Its body expanded by 10 times, and its originally white fur turned golden. It gained intelligence and immediately let out a long howl. It was said that this goat had reached the extreme bone realm. In just a few days, powerhouses appeared among humans and beasts, almost disrupting the current level of martial art. Heaven and earth changed drastically. The second great change had finally begun. For a moment, everyone was excited and terrified. This was a great opportunity. The reason why the 4 great commanders and Grand Tutor Hong were able to reach the engravement realm was because they had seized the opportunity when the world first changed and seized the opportunity. That was why they were able to laugh proudly for more than 100 years. Now that the second upheaval had begun, as long as they seized the opportunity, they would also have the chance to become existences like the 4 great marshals. In fact, the upheaval this time would be even fiercer, and they might even rush to higher heights. Enlightenment realm's secret-seeking realm, everything was possible. However, opportunities were also accompanied by danger. After the upheaval, it was already very dangerous. Even an inconspicuous stalk of grass could release terrifying sword chi and destroy everything. Of course, the most dangerous was the competition between humans and beasts. Who wouldn't want to seize the opportunity and rise up in one day? There was nothing to pay attention to in the fight for historical sites. Everything was determined by strength. Xianyuan Dingwa came to find Ling Han and invited him to go with him, but Ling Han refused. It wasn't that he looked down on Xianyuan Dingwa, thinking that he would be a burden, but he was afraid of dragging him down. Because of Princess Bai Xiao, Ling Han was now like a street rat. Out of 100 men, probably 99 would want to kill him, so going with Xianyuan Dingwa would only bring harm to him. If Ling Han moved alone, it would be more convenient. After all, he still didn't want Xianyuan Dingwa to know the secret of the spirit-nourishing gourd. Taking the 7 gourd brothers with him, Ling Han quietly left the capital. The photon computer could only be used as a standalone machine. The network had long since been disconnected. Ling Han sighed and put the photon computer back into the gourd. Without the communication function, the photon computer's practical value was greatly reduced. A day later, he entered a small town to gather information. If he was in the capital, he would be like a blind or deaf person. The news would be delayed by at least a few days. Now that the upheaval had become the biggest topic, Ling Han quickly found a lot of useful information. About 2 days' journey from the capital, an underground palace had appeared. It was said that the moment it appeared, there was a dazzling light, celestial music, and the image of immortals. Ling Han decided to go take a look. He used wind and cloud drift, his speed rising to 4 times the speed of sound. This so-called 2-day journey was calculated based on the speed of the blood-changing realm. But Ling Han's speed was 4 times that, so he only needed half a day. However, wind and cloud drift couldn't be used continuously. After an hour, his whole body would be burning up and he couldn't take it anymore. But at 3 times the speed of sound, Ling Han only spent a little more than half a day to reach the place. It was originally a large lake, but now the lake water had completely evaporated, revealing an ancient building at the bottom. There was an indescribable charm to the building, and there was a white gas rising from the top of the building, as if it was immortal qi. "Hey, this is a high-level energy," second baby said. "It can actually block my eye sorcery." Ling Han was surprised. Even second baby's eye sorcery couldn't pass through the white fog? "Let's go take a look." 8 people and 1 pig walked towards the lake, but they immediately discovered that they couldn't climb over the wall. There was a strong force suppressing them. 6th baby could go through the wall, but she couldn't bring the spirit-nourishing gourd in. So, they could only find the real entrance. After half a turn, they appeared at the door. The door was already open, but they didn't know whether it had always been closed or just opened. Ling Han looked around and saw that there was no one around, so he strode in. After entering through the main doors, Ling Han instantly felt as if he had entered into another world. "Hey, the power of heaven and earth here is much stronger," second baby said. "There is a formation here, and this place is isolated from the world, so it remains the same as it was thousands of years ago," third baby said coldly. At that time, Heavenly Star was still suitable for cultivation, so the power of heaven and earth must be much stronger. Ling Han looked at the few radishes and said, "Do you know what happened to Heavenly Star in the past?" "I'm not very sure, but it seems that a catastrophe happened. There were many people who took care of us every day, but then they disappeared," eldest baby said, biting his finger. This confirmed Ling Han's guess. At that time, there was a great chaos on Heavenly Star, and many people fled. But what kind of calamity was this? Ling Han shook his head and said, "Let's go find the treasure fruit." Chapter 34:20. What's wrong with you? Why do you fall asleep as soon as you talk? Ling Han was speechless. 7th baby's extravagance in sleeping had reached the point of insanity. He sighed and said to the other babies, "This thing definitely weighs more than 5,000 kilograms. How can it be used as a spiritual weapon?" With his current strength, lifting a 5,000-kilogram rock was a piece of cake. He could do it for an entire day, but in terms of spiritual power, he could only lift something that weighed 1,000 kilograms at most. In a direct confrontation, he wouldn't even be able to win with his spiritual power at the illuminating meridian realm. "Dad, you're too stupid. Try injecting your spiritual power into this heavenly pattern jade," said eldest baby in a childish voice. Ling Han did as he was told, but was surprised. As he injected his spiritual power, the rock actually became lighter. The more spiritual power he injected, the lighter it became. But when it reached 5 kilograms, it would be very difficult to get any lighter. "Put down what you're holding." A voice suddenly rang out from behind Ling Han. Ling Han turned around, only to see a person leaping over from behind, his face filled with greed. It was Jin Shaojian, the successor of the Jin family. All of a sudden, Ling Han could not be bothered to ask the milk babies about the heavenly pattern jade. He stored the heavenly pattern jade back into the origin nurturing gourd, and smiled faintly at Jin Shaojian. "What did you say?" "Ling Han, how dare you? I've already told you to put down the thing in your hand, yet you actually dared to put it away. You actually also have a spatial celestial tool?" Jin Shaojian was startled. One had to know that the technique of creating spatial celestial tools had already been lost, so the current spatial celestial tools were all passed down from the previous civilization and were incredibly rare. This country bumpkin actually had a spatial artifact. Jin Shaojian felt displeased, as if he'd been humiliated. Ling Han's expression was indifferent. "It's just a rock. What are you so nervous about? Idiot, that's a heavenly pattern jade. Jin Shaojian said disdainfully. This guy actually knew about it? Ling Han nodded. The Jin family was a family from the previous civilization, so they kept a lot of information about the previous civilization. It was not surprising that they recognized such a good thing. The heavenly rune jade has already been obtained by me. Do you still want to snatch it from me? Ling Han smiled. He was still somewhat fearful of Jin Sanin, but Jin Shaojian was nothing more than trash. Jin Shaojian's face was filled with arrogance. You'd better take the initiative to hand over the spatial artifact. Otherwise his appetite has grown. Not only does he want the heavenly pattern jade, but he also wants spatial magic tools. Ling Han shook his head. I didn't like you in the first place, but I couldn't be bothered to lower myself to your level. But you just had to send yourself to my doorstep to ask for a beating. Just nice, you still owe me a bet. Wager. Jin Shaojian suddenly thought of something. Previously, when Ling Han had been imprisoned in the heavenly prison, he had wanted to use Ling Han's surrender as a condition to save Ling Han. Thus, Ling Han had made a bet with him that he would be able to walk out easily. Jin Shaojian naturally lost, but he swaggered off without taking it seriously. Now that Ling Han was bringing up the past again, he only snorted coldly. This isn't the capital. No one will come to save you. Father, this guy is so arrogant. Can we beat him up? Eldest child tugged on Ling Han's hand and swung it around, an innocent expression on his face. In truth, her violent mania had already flared up. You're just a kid. Don't think about fighting all day. Ling Han took large strides towards Jin Shaojian. Sigh, Dad is a violent maniac himself. Don't scold us. Fourth baby shrugged. With a dad like this, it's easy for us to learn bad things. Fifth baby also shook his head. Jin Shaojian sneered. Ling Han, I'm at the engravement realm, and a 2-mark one at that. My strength far surpasses the extreme bone realm. Moreover, I know that the clothes you're wearing have a formation that can pull your opponent's cultivation to the same level as yours. Don't forget that my Jin family is a hidden family. Our foundation is beyond your imagination. I have a way to nullify your formation. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. Don't flatter yourself. Do I need to use absolute fairness to beat trash like you? Jin Shaojian's expression turned ugly. How dare you look down on me? You lowly country bumpkin, you're courting death. He muttered. The hidden family thought that they were the true inheritors of Heavenly Sea Star's martial art. What Xianbei nation? What demon race? All of them had appeared in this era. How could they compare to them? Therefore, every member of the hidden family was extremely arrogant. They thought that they were the masters of this planet and that everyone else was just an ignorant ant. But now, there was an ant that dared to look down on them. Jin Shaojian was furious. He shook his hands and suddenly, cold air rose. He used a high-level energy, intending to kill Ling Han with a thunderous force. Ling Han was already very close. He casually raised his fist and punched at Jin Shaojian. Jin Shaojian raised his palm to meet the attack. The surrounding temperature instantly dropped. Ling Han's fist continued to swing. Hong, a raging flame suddenly ignited on his fist, instantly dispelling the coldness. What? Jin Shaojian couldn't help but widen his eyes. He didn't expect that the high-level energy Ling Han could summon was not only equal to his, but even stronger. He snorted and spread open his right hand. He shouted, "Thousand Mountain Palm." Illusions of mountains appeared one after another, as if they were reinforcing his palm, forming a terrifying pressure. Ling Han didn't care. He only superimposed 30 layers of power and met the attack head-on. Bang! The two forces collided, and the phantoms of the mountains immediately collapsed. Ling Han's fist went straight through and smashed into Jin Shaojian's face, sending him flying. Jin Shaojian landed on the ground. Half of his face had already changed shape, but he didn't seem to feel it. He said in a daze, "How is this possible? How can I lose to a country bumpkin? Where did this sense of superiority come from?" Ling Han shook his head and said, "I didn't even use 30% of my battle prowess, and you already fell. You really can't take a beating. Are you sure you're really from some hidden clan? Are you not muddle-headed? Jin Shaojian roared in anger. He couldn't bear this kind of humiliation. He slammed his hands on the ground, and his whole body shot up, charging toward Ling Han. Ling Han shook his head, and once again punched back. Ping! Jin Shaojian was instantly sent flying, and he landed solidly on the ground. He was actually a little unyielding, and he actually got up again, charging toward Ling Han. Unfortunately, the difference in strength was too great. No matter how much he struggled, it was useless. Jin Shaojian finally understood this point. He waved his hand, and xiao, a firework soared into the sky. Ah, Ling Han, you have no idea how many experts my Jin clan has mobilized this time, he said with a smile. Just you wait. Once my Jin clan's experts arrive, you'll only have a tragic death. Ling Han was instantly enraged. He had originally only wanted to teach Jin Shaojian a lesson, but it was obvious that Jin Shaojian wanted to kill him. This caused his killing intent to rise as well. What an idiot, he said coldly. Hong, a baleful aura surged, and he charged toward Jin Shaojian. Chapter 34:21. This was formed during the 7 transformations, and even the heavens and earth were affected by it. Even an expert and genius like Yuan Ying would be affected, let alone someone like Jin Shaojian. He immediately revealed a look of fear. His eyes widened and his mouth opened involuntarily, drooling. He was seriously frightened and his mind was in a trance. Ling Han realized that he had only discovered the wondrous effects of the eye technique after the 7 transformations, but he had neglected the power of this evil qi. After all, it was formed after 7 transformations, so how could it be ordinary? You're seeking your own death. Ling Han pointed out with a finger. Pa! Jin Shaojian's head instantly exploded. Father, you're really cruel, said the eldest child. Too violent. 4th baby nodded. You lead the children astray, 5th baby chimed in. Forget it, these 7 babies all had violent tendencies, did they need him to teach them bad? Ling Han chuckled and found a spatial artifact on Jin Shaojian's body. However, aside from some jade seeds, there was nothing valuable inside. He sighed. Was the descendant of this hidden clan fake? How could he be so poor? Let's leave this place first, Ling Han said. The people of the Jin family would definitely arrive soon. Although Ling Han had the absolute fairness and was not afraid to fight against strong opponents, who knew how many enemies there would be in the ancient ruins to seize treasures. Therefore, it was better to keep his trump card in hand and only use it at the most critical moment. He took out the heavenly pattern jade again. Because his telekinesis had disappeared, it had regained its weight of 5,000 kilograms. Ling Han injected his psyche power again, and the jade immediately became lighter. However, when it reached about 5 kilograms, it was difficult to make it lighter again. Continue to inject power, 3rd baby said. Ling Han did as he was told. For caddies, 5 caddies, 1.5 caddies. The heavenly rune jade became lighter and lighter, but 1.5 caddies was Ling Han's current limit. Father, throw it out, 6th baby said. Retract your power the moment it leaves your hand. Ling Han raised his right hand and tossed the heavenly rune jade out. At the same time, he retracted his telekinesis, and the fist-sized stone shot out at 6 times the speed of sound. Bam! The stone smashed into the wall, forcefully smashing a hole in the wall and getting stuck inside. Ling Han was overwhelmed with shock. He knew how strong this wall was. Even if he used 50 layers of strength, he still wouldn't be able to break it. However, he had simply smashed a rock, yet a hole had appeared in the wall. However, one could also imagine the terrifying impact of throwing a rock that weighed 10,000 kilograms at 6 times the speed of sound. He couldn't help but wonder what would happen if he were to add telekinesis to the process of throwing it. Ling Han took back the heavenly rune jade and compressed it again with his telekinesis. Soon, it weighed 3 kilograms again. He threw it out and pushed it with his telekinesis. His telekinesis could now cover an area of 5 feet. In other words, he could continuously use his telekinesis to accelerate within this area. Xiao, the heavenly pattern jade flew out and smashed into the wall. However, it didn't break through the wall, and the damage it caused was even smaller. Why is that? He pondered for a moment and came to a sudden realization. It was because he had withdrawn his telekinesis too slowly that the heavenly rune jade hadn't regained its original weight when it hit the wall. Strength and speed determined the force of impact. He needed time to think about it. A smile appeared on Ling Han's face. Using his mind power to control objects to attack was his trump card in the first place, and now the might of this trump card had increased by a ton. Unfortunately, it took a long time to compress the heavenly rune jade. It took a full 10 seconds. Under normal circumstances, this was a small matter, but in a battle, 10 seconds was not a short time. Since he needed to use his trump card, his opponent would definitely be extraordinary. Therefore, it was difficult to fight for 10 seconds. Therefore, not only did Ling Han have to accurately control the time of withdrawing his telekinesis, but he also had to increase the efficiency of the compression. He had to shorten the time from 10 seconds to 5 seconds, 3 seconds, or even less. This kind of trump card was worthy of its name. There's no rush. I can take my time, Ling Han murmured. Dad, this heavenly rune jade can be forged into something else. For example, it can be made into the shape of a knife or a sword to increase its destructive power, sixth baby added. Ling Han nodded. This was what he was thinking as well. However, the heavenly rune jade is extremely hard. It's a 2-star immortal grade material, and no one can forge it now, second baby said, dampening his enthusiasm. Unless we can get the 1,000 nether water, third baby said. This can soften most materials in the world and mold them into the desired shape without wasting anything, seventh baby suddenly said. Hey, when did you wake up? 1,000 nether water, Ling Han repeated. This is also an extremely rare item, second baby said. But Dad's luck is so heaven-defying, I believe you can definitely get it. Ling Han laughed. Thanks to your auspicious words, I suddenly feel 100 times more confident. Hee, the milk babies all laughed. Meanwhile, the perverted pig glanced at Ling Han and was slightly surprised. This guy's luck was indeed nature-defying. In just a few months' time, he had obtained so many treasures, and there were even celestial-level treasures. In the palace where Jin Shaojian's corpse was. Swoosh, swoosh. 2 figures flew over, one old and one young. The old one looked to be in his 60s, and the young one was a young man in his 20s. The old man's aura was amazing, and his blood chi soared into the sky, like an undefeated lion. The young man's aura was restrained, but standing next to the old man, he was not inferior at all. Shaojian's signal was sent from here, the old man said. Where is he? He searched for a while and quickly found Jin Shaojian's corpse. His face immediately turned cold. The young man also walked over, revealing the same murderous aura. How dare you kill a member of the Jin family? You must be tired of living, the old man said fiercely. The young man took out a jade box, opened it a little, and placed it next to Jin Shaojian's corpse. After a while, he said, I have used the hooking insect to record the murderer's aura. As long as I find him, I can find him. We must kill the murderer in the cruelest way possible, the old man said. The upheaval of the world has officially begun, and the Jin family must take advantage of this opportunity to rise and become the master of heavenly Neptune. What Chen family, what demon emperor, they can only crawl in front of the Jin family. The young man nodded, his face full of agreement. However, this person can kill Shaojian, so he must not be weak. You can't be careless, the old man said. The young man smiled confidently and said, Fourth grandpa, don't forget that I am at the enlightening realm. Even the so-called heaven-suppressing genius, Hong Tianbu, can only kneel in front of me. He was Jin Shaohuang, and from his name, one could see the expectations the Jin family had for him. Reading on a mobile phone. Chapter 34-22. Ling Han led the 7 children through one palace after another. When they reached the 17th palace, he finally realized that there were more people inside. Some people fought because they discovered rare herbs and treasured fruits, while others fought because they were unwilling to submit to each other, resulting in completely unnecessary fights. This was actually very common among martial artists. Many young people thought that the heavens were the boss and they were the second boss. They were young and impetuous, didn't like to reason, and would settle everything with their fists. When fighting for historical sites without the suppression of the law, it was easy to cause big conflicts. Ling Han looked around. There were no treasured fruits or rare herbs here that were worth his effort, so he naturally couldn't be bothered to join in. He continued deeper into the palace. Along the way, he constantly improved his use of the heavenly rune jade. This group of palaces was astonishingly large. After passing through 33 palaces, what they saw after exiting the door was not a garden, but an arched bridge. It seemed to be erected in the sky, and the bottom was shrouded by clouds, so the scenery below couldn't be seen at all. This arched bridge was actually made of wood. Although it looked fine, it had been here for God knows how many years. Had the wood rotted? Ling Han was a little anxious. He activated his ocular sorcery to take a closer look and found that the wooden bridge was really well maintained. As far as he could see, there was not a single trace of damage. "Father, this is swordwood. Even if it's soaked in water for 10,000 years, it won't rot. It's even sturdier than fine iron," said the eldest child, beginning to impart knowledge to Ling Han again. Ling Han nodded. Why did he feel that these 7 children were the adults, and he was the ignorant baby? "Let's go, let's go." The 7 children were the first to jump onto the bridge and ran forward happily. Ling Han also stepped onto the bridge. Indeed, although this bridge was made of wood, it was very sturdy. Even if the mountain wind blew, the wooden bridge didn't move at all. However, this wooden bridge was really long. Although Ling Han didn't walk very fast, he still hadn't reached the end after 10 minutes. His heart suddenly palpitated. He looked down and saw the clouds below churning as if something terrifying was about to be born. He activated his eye sorcery, but the clouds blocked his vision, making it impossible for him to see through it. Second baby also leaned on the railing to watch, but he quickly withdrew his gaze and shook his head at Ling Han. It was clear that her eyesight couldn't see through the mist either. This was the condensation of high-level energy. Ling Han acted as if he was facing a formidable enemy. If any terrifying existence really rushed up from below, he would immediately wrap up the 7 milk babies and put them into the gourd. As for the fat pig, well, he would throw it out to block it first. The fat pig seemed to have sensed his thoughts and spat at him. Fortunately, after the clouds rolled for a while, they returned to calmness. Ling Han hurriedly quickened his pace. There was no way to go up to the sky or down to the ground. It was too insecure. After crossing the bridge, they saw that there was actually a cliff, and there were many palaces standing on the cliff in front of them. "Hey, isn't this the bottom of the lake? Why is there a cliff here?" Looking at the situation, it seemed that the entire mountain had been pressed into the earth, so a lake was formed here. However, due to the drastic changes in the world, the lake water had dried up, and this place had once again seen the light of day. Ling Han walked towards the nearest palace. The door was still open, and when he entered, he found that there was a fierce battle going on inside. It was 1 against 8, and the battle was very intense. The one being beaten up was a young man. He was dressed very ordinarily and looked like a rustic from the mountains. However, his strength was really extraordinary, reaching the level of 5 vein. His 8 opponents were much weaker. Most of them were in the extreme bone realm, and only one of them had reached the level of inscription, and it was only a 1 vein. Logically speaking, a 5 vein expert should have an absolute advantage and should be able to instantly kill these 8 people. However, this was not the case. They were fighting incomparably entangled. This was because the 5 vein expert's movements were very jerky, as if he were a newbie fighting for the first time. He had made too many mistakes that he should not have made. If not for his absolute advantage in strength, he would have already been knocked down many times. But it was also because of this that he had a lot of room for growth. Every time he fought, his strength would increase a little, and he became more and more powerful, gradually suppressing the other 8 people. "Pull, pull, pull," the 1 vein expert shouted, and the 8 people immediately retreated. The 5 vein expert did not chase after them, but looked towards Ling Han and shouted, "Are you also here to fight for the treasure?" Ling Han spread out his hands and said, "What treasure? Introduce it to me." The 5 vein expert looked at Ling Han, snorted, and said, Since you dare to covet my treasure, I will kill you. Xiao, he leapt over, and a fist smashed towards Ling Han. It was not a martial technique, but a very simple punch. It was like a fight between ordinary people. Ling Han was astonished. Are you really a five-vein expert? You have already cultivated to such a high level, how could you not even know this martial technique? Are you purposely trying to numb me? Xiao, that five-vein expert threw out a few punches, but Ling Han really could not see anything special about them. He suddenly exclaimed, as if he had understood something. Combined with the other party's incomparably clumsy fighting ability and his entire body's rustic aura, Ling Han could be sure that this person was the lucky one who had eaten the origin-strengthening fruit, and directly rose from an ordinary person to the engravement realm. Moreover, it was at the level of five-vein. If he could eat a few more, he would most likely reach the enlightenment realm. If he really reached the enlightenment realm, he would not need any martial techniques, just speed and strength would be enough to crush inscriptions. Before this, you were just an ordinary person in the mountains, right? Ling Han said indifferently. When this palace opened, you were nearby just now, and were the first to enter. After eating many origin-strengthening fruits, you immediately rose to the engravement realm. That five-vein expert's expression could not help but change drastically. Ling Han had guessed correctly. Indeed, he was just a herb farmer in the past. When the underground palace appeared, he was gathering herbs nearby, and mustered up his courage to enter. In the end, he discovered the origin-strengthening fruit. At first, he did not dare to eat it, afraid that it would be poisonous. However, he also heard all sorts of related stories, and in the end he could not help but eat one. As a result, his life level experienced a huge leap. Thus, he ate one after another, and also pushed his realm to the level of five-vein. One must know that before this, he was just an ordinary herb farmer, too ordinary. He completely did not know how strong he was now, and when he saw the martial artists who entered later, he mainly hid. However, there would always be a time when he could not hide, and so a battle occurred. However, he discovered that those martial artists, who were usually unreachable in his eyes, could not even withstand a single blow from him. After a few battles, his confidence was incomparably inflated, and he thought that he had already become an unparalleled martial artist. Thus, he no longer hid his whereabouts, and openly began to search for and fight for treasures. Chapter 34-24. Ling Han was astonished. In the past, engravement realm cultivators were as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns. There were only the four marshals, Senior Tutor Hong, and a few high-ranking princes. They could be counted on one's fingers. But now, other than the four marshals who were still at the same spot, the princes had all stepped into the enlightenment realm. Even the eldest prince had become a secret-seeking expert. There was also the demon race. Engravement realm cultivators were not a dime a dozen, but their numbers were in the hundreds. There was an ordinary villager who ate a treasure fruit and directly reached the engravement realm. In an instant, the engravement realm seemed to have been overturned and was no longer as high and mighty as before. This young Master Gao was actually also in the engravement realm. But this person obviously did not forcefully reach this level by eating the origin-strengthening fruit. His aura was strong and stable, obviously a result of bitter cultivation. Such a genius could not have appeared out of nowhere. Ling Han's eyes brightened. A hidden family. That young Master Gao was startled, but before he could speak, the other 8 were shocked. How did you know? Our Lu family has been hidden for more than 2,000 years. I didn't think someone would know. Brat, just who are you? Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. Was this what they called a pig teammate? Lu Gao snorted and said, I didn't expect you to know about the hidden family. Ling Han nodded. He had originally thought that there was only the Jin family. He didn't expect there to be other families. Since there were 2 families, there might be a third, a fourth, and so on. Since you know we are from a hidden family, then you should understand that we are the rulers of this planet. All the historical sites belong to us, Lu Gao said. Your skin is really thick. First, it was Jin Shaojian who thought he was infallible. This Lu Gao was not much better. Ling Han shook his head and said, I've seen many shameless people. You can be ranked among the top. How dare you? Lu Gao shouted softly. He raised his palm and struck out at Ling Han. Swoosh, a gust of wind, carrying with it a dark blue high-level energy, turned into a blade and slashed over. Ling Han clenched his fist to meet the attack, and also struck out a wave of energy. Pang! The two bolts of qi collided, setting off a powerful shockwave that instantly shattered all the tables and chairs in the palace. Lu Gao revealed a surprised expression. He hadn't been able to gain the upper hand in this attack. That was far beyond his expectations. Although he was only at the 2-mark level, his battle prowess had already surpassed the peak of the 5-mark level. Otherwise, he would not have been so confident that even Hong Tianbu was no match for him. Of course, he absolutely did not believe that Hong Tianbu had the ability to fight across a realm. Not only Hong Tianbu, but no one else could do it. He was a little surprised that Ling Han was able to resist his casual attack. You have some skill. No wonder you dare to be so impudent in front of me, said Lu Gao coldly. But he was still filled with confidence. That was because he hadn't used his full strength just now. Ling Han shook his head. If you want to fight, then be more straightforward. Don't be so wishy-washy. I'm not here to watch you perform. Lu Gao looked at Ling Han, and after a while, he said, You're known as the number 2 of Hong Tianbu, and you do have some strength. Then this young master will subdue you and then teach you a lesson so that you can defeat Hong Tianbu. Only then will you be able to display my strength. Young Master Gao, you're really too wise. The people at the side hurriedly flattered. Even one of young Master Gao's subordinates can defeat Hong Tianbu. At that time, the world will be shocked by young Master Gao's strength. I'm really looking forward to it. What dog fart Hong Tianbu? He actually dares to call himself a heaven-suppressing monster? Have you asked our young Master Gao? Someone looked at Ling Han and shouted, Brat, our young Master Gao is willing to accept you as his subordinate. Hurry up and kneel to thank him. You should know that our young Master Gao is the most generous person. He will frequently bestow treasured fruits, techniques, and secret arts to his subordinates. This is your great fortune. Hurry up and thank him. These people were all talking at once, as if being Lu Gao's dog was an incomparably fortunate thing. Ling Han couldn't help but shake his head. This is really funny. A few frogs at the bottom of a well are shouting and jumping around. Hurry up, if you want to fight, then fight. If not, then I'm going to call it a day. I don't have time to waste on trash like you. You dare to refuse this young master's good intentions? You'll definitely regret it, Lu Gao said coldly. He charged over. He suddenly burst forth with 3 times the speed of sound. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Ling Han and chopped out with his palm. Ling Han also used his movement arts to exchange blows with Lu Gao. Pung, 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 the two of them exchanged blows. After a few probing blows, they burst forth with their full strength. However, the two of them were evenly matched. If they continued to exchange blows like this, then it would depend on whose secret power and physical strength was stronger and who could endure longer. Lu Gao retreated. He looked at Ling Han and said, What level of cultivation do you have? You're actually able to endure for so long against me. Ling Han chuckled, but he didn't reveal his cultivation. In any case, even if he told the truth, his opponent wouldn't believe him. What? There was someone who could fight him to a draw despite being an entire major realm higher? Wasn't this a joke? Let's just fight. What's with all this nonsense? He took the initiative to attack. This Lu Gao could be said to be a very good opponent. He possessed the strength to sweep through all of the engravement realm. Compared to him, Lu Gao could be said to be evenly matched. What an arrogant fellow. Lu Gao gritted his teeth. He naturally wouldn't back down, and he continued to exchange blows with Ling Han. This Lu Gao was indeed very powerful. Secret techniques appeared one after another, allowing Ling Han to fight to his heart's content. But in the distance, there was a flash of fireworks. Lu Gao glanced at it and immediately stopped. He said, Consider yourself lucky. The next time we meet, if you don't submit, I'll kill you. After saying this, he hurriedly left with the other 8 people. It was as if something incredible had happened. Ling Han didn't chase after them. He couldn't be bothered to waste time. Although he had used his full strength just now, he hadn't used any of his trump cards. Putting aside everything else, he was absolutely fair. He could guarantee that he would be able to defeat his opponent within 10 moves. "Dad, let's go join in the fun." Second baby pointed into the distance. That was where the fireworks had come from. Ling Han nodded. It was possible that a treasure had appeared there, which was why the other members of the Lu family had sent out a signal and summoned Lu Gao over to fight over it. He also moved out. The palaces here were all built on steep cliffs, and there was no path to walk. They could only climb up the cliffs, which was extremely dangerous. 1 adult and 7 children climbed up the cliffs. This was naturally a piece of cake for them. Perverted Pig was tossed into the vitality-nourishing gourd by Ling Han. Soon, they arrived at the palace. There was a huge plaza in front of the palace, and there were currently 2 people facing off in the plaza. There were quite a few of them, with 22 on one side and 25 on the other. Ling Han couldn't help but be surprised. On one side was the Jin family, and on the other side was the Lu family. These 2 great hidden families were facing off. Chapter 34-25. The 2 sides were not fighting as a group, but one-on-one duels. They took turns to fight, as if to decide the ownership of the palace or the distribution of treasures. Ling Han took a look and found a few powerful beings. For enlightening realms. The Jin family and Lu family each had 2, but the Lu family's 2 were elders, while the Jin family had 1 old and 1 young. Ling Han nodded. This was more like a hidden family. Otherwise, how could they claim to be the inheritors of the previous civilization if they did not even have a young expert? Just by looking at their battle, Ling Han admitted that he was not as strong as the 4, but they were not geniuses at all. Even if their cultivation was high, they would only be average in a battle of the same level. This was probably because the hidden family controlled a large amount of cultivation resources, which allowed them to advance by leaps and bounds in their realms. Ling Han thought about it in his mind. If the rules were absolutely fair, would he be able to defeat these 4 people within 10 minutes? The answer was yes, but the problem was that the 4 of them would not escape, but fight him to the death in the formation. But that was too difficult. When their cultivation was suppressed, wouldn't the 4 of them run away? It would be difficult for Ling Han to defeat the 4 of them at the same time within a range of 30 meters. As long as he got out of the formation, he could stall for time until the formation was exhausted. Ling Han was still unable to defeat in lightning realms. So if he attacked, he had to defeat all 4 of them with lightning speed. Ling Han thought about it. First, he would rush up and defeat one, then chase after the second. Then, he would use the heavenly rune jade to defeat one of the 7 milk babies, and then defeat one more. His eyes brightened. Why was he only thinking about himself? Which milk baby didn't have the ability to fight above their level? As long as they were in the same realm, they were all fierce. For opponents was not a problem at all. Even 8 of them could fight one-on-one. If 7th baby didn't suddenly fall asleep. With this thought, Ling Han was completely confident. He set his eyes on the palace. It was different from the others, standing at the highest point of the cliff, as if it was going to reach the sky. The palace gate was also different from the others. It was tightly shut, and there were 2 swan and eye guarding the gate, exuding a ferocious aura as if they were alive. 6th baby, try and see if you can get in, he said. Yes, father. 6th baby moved, and then there was no more movement. No one could track her movements. Perhaps she was still in the same place, or perhaps she had already entered the palace. Ling Han could not help but rejoice. Fortunately, 6th baby did not have the same problem as 7th baby. Otherwise, if she fell asleep on a whim, no one would be able to find out, and she would definitely get lost. After a while, 6th baby returned. A bright red fruit appeared out of thin air and fell to the ground. Then 6th baby said, "Father, there is an altar inside. There are many offerings on it, but it is protected by layers of matrices, so I can only take the ones at the bottom." 6th baby's invisibility had a special characteristic. If something could be completely enveloped by her, It would have the same invisibility characteristic. Not only would it be invisible, but it could also pass through walls. How to wrap it? Smaller items could be grabbed with her hands, and larger items could be stuffed into her mouth. Ling Han looked at the fruit. It was the size of a walnut. With sixth baby's small hands, it was impossible for her to grab it. Looking at the saliva on it, he was sure that it was sixth baby who had brought it out with her mouth. It was fine. She just needed to wash it. This is an earth spirit fruit. Second baby glanced at it. It can improve one's physique. In theory, as long as there is enough earth spirit fruit, it can improve an ordinary person's physique to the level of a quasi-divine body. Ling Han knew what a divine body was. Not only did it allow one to cultivate at an astonishing speed, but it also allowed one to grasp supernatural powers from birth. However, a divine body was usually innate. Although it could be created after birth, it was far inferior to an innate divine body. This fruit could allow a person to reach the level of a quasi-divine body. It was indeed extraordinary. Father, we are all born with divine bodies. This earth spirit fruit can only be eaten by you. Eldest baby picked up the fruit and kicked perverted pig away. This fellow had actually crawled over without a sound, wanting to secretly eat the fruit. However, he did not think that with his fat body he would have to stop 3 steps after every step. His intentions would naturally be seen through by others. Ling Han thought about it and put the earth spirit fruit into his gourd. He could eat it later. There was no hurry. On the other side, the Jin and Lu clans had also finished fighting. They seemed to have reached some kind of consensus and joined forces to walk towards the palace gate. Ling Han was about to make a move, but he was stopped by sixth baby. Father, watch first, hee. Sixth baby was very reliable. Ling Han did as he was told and did not make a move. Instead, he watched patiently. The people of the Jin and Lu families came to the entrance of the palace and began to study how to open the gate. But after a few tries, a strange brilliance flashed, and the 2 stone puppets guarding the gate actually came to life. Whoosh whoosh. The 2 stone chi immediately rushed towards the crowd, causing chaos. What's going on? Why did the stone suddenly move? So powerful. Caught off guard, a few people were immediately injured and sent flying. Fortunately, the 4 enlightening realms from the 2 clans attacked together, suppressing the 2 stone chi. The stone chi was only at the enlightening realm, so the scene immediately calmed down. The human side had the advantage of having 2 more enlightening realms, while the stone chi's advantage was that they were not living beings, but made of stone. They had no weak points and were not afraid of attacks. The battle between the 2 sides was extremely fierce. Ling Han saw that the 4 enlightening realms were holding back at first, but when they were forced into a corner, they had no choice but to use their ultimate moves. The 3 old men only used their blood chi, but the young man directly took out a talisman soldier, which turned into a war elephant and fought fiercely with the stone chi that was a talisman soldier from the secret realm. Once it was taken out, it gained the absolute upper hand and quickly suppressed one of the stone chi. The 3 old men worked together, and after some effort, they finally suppressed the other stone chi. Ling Han could clearly see that this stone puppet was driven by a formation, but the power of the current formation definitely couldn't be compared to before, so the stone puppet's battle prowess was only in the opening aperture tier. Otherwise, with the heavenly pattern jade and 2-star magic tools here, the formation used to guard the sacrificial palace could only exert the cultivation of the enlightening realm. In the previous civilization, those below the immortal path could not be called experts at all. Was this formation only used to guard against a few small thieves? Dad, let's do it. Eldest baby was in high spirits, and his violence was already raging. Ling Han smiled and said, okay. He leaped out, and the 7 milk babies followed behind him as they marched forward in a grandiose manner. However, in the eyes of others, this lineup was indescribably comical. Chapter 34-26. What's going on? A young man with 6 adorable children walked over. This was not a street, but a historical site. The members of the Jin clan and the Lu clan both looked at Ling Han with strange expressions. Ling Han. But after the initial shock, they all recognized Ling Han. Ling Han's name had shaken the imperial capital. Whether it was his scolding of Senior Grand Tutor Hong or his affair with Princess Bai Shao, they had all shamed him. The hidden families were only keeping a low profile, but it wasn't as if they didn't care about what was going on outside. Good, you actually dare to follow me. A menacing expression immediately appeared on Lu Gao's face, and he strode towards Ling Han. I've said it before. If I see you again, you only have two choices. Either you become my subordinate, or you die. Ling Han sighed and said, I found that you hidden families all have a common characteristic, which is that you are all thick-skinned and think highly of yourselves. How dare you? The Jin and Lu families shouted in unison. They were the hidden families, the inheritors of the previous civilization, the most legitimate heirs of Heavenly Sea Star. How dare you, a country bumpkin, act presumptuously in front of them? Look at how stubborn you are. You obviously don't want to work for me. Lu Gao rushed over and slapped at the top of Ling Han's head. He was determined to kill him. Ling Han snorted and raised his right hand, throwing the heavenly rune jade. Along the way, he had been using telekinesis on the heavenly rune jade, reducing its weight to about 3 kilograms. This throw suddenly burst out at 6 times the speed of sound, and it was still accelerating. 7 times, 8 times, 9 times the speed of sound. At 9 times the speed of sound, it pierced toward Lu Gao. It was as fast as light. With Lu Gao's current strength, he could block 6 times the speed of sound, but 9 times the speed of sound was difficult for his eyes to follow. However, a genius was a genius after all. He managed to block with his right hand in front of him. There was a flash of blood. If time could be slowed down by 10,000 times, one could clearly see that Lu Gao's arm, which was blocking in front of him, exploded. The heavenly rune jade's momentum was unstoppable, and it didn't slow down at all. It slammed into Lu Gao's chest, and his entire upper body exploded. This was a bullet that weighed 10,000 kilograms. There was no need to sharpen the tip of the bullet. In fact, the blunt side could increase the destructive power, creating a terrifying tearing effect. Not only did Lu Gao have a hole in his chest, but his upper body was also torn apart. The lower half of Lu Gao's body was still running, and it was still spurting blood. That scene was terrifying. For a moment, the entire place was silent. What the hell? Although Lu Gao couldn't be called a peerless expert, his battle prowess was already at the peak of the engravement realm, yet he was instantly killed by Ling Han with a raise of his hand. Moreover, he died so miserably. How could anyone accept this? Could it be that Ling Han had already entered the enlightening realm? Gao, the Lu family's enlightening realm elder cried out in grief. This was their Lu family's genius. Although his cultivation couldn't be compared to Jin Shaowang's, the only difference was the realm, not the talent. But now, he'd been instantly killed by someone else? Little brat, you're courting death. He was furious, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. Ling Han's expression was cold. I've never shown mercy to those who want to kill me. As he spoke, the heavenly rune jade seemed to have grown wings and flew back out of thin air. This caused everyone's eyes to stare blankly. One had to know that even if someone cultivated telekinesis and could take things from afar, it wouldn't be able to reach such a distance. Naturally, they didn't know that it was sixth baby who was holding the heavenly rune jade. It was just that no one could see him. Ling Han stretched out his hand and retrieved the heavenly rune jade. At the same time, he infused his telekinesis into it to make it lighter. He didn't expect the power of this attack to be so terrifying. Previously, when he used his telekinesis to drive his flying sword, it was also a powerful weapon, but compared to the heavenly rune jade, the difference was huge. But then again, the heavenly rune jade was a 2-star material above the path of immortality. How could the materials used by immortals be comparable to ordinary flying swords made of refined iron? Just thinking about the destructive power of smashing something that weighed thousands of kilograms at 9 times the speed of sound, and it was only the size of a fist, no wonder the previous civilization didn't develop technology. Damn, what kind of guns and cannons could compare to such a weapon? Moreover, Ling Han was only in the extreme bone realm, far from the path of immortality, and the heavenly rune jade was only a 2-star material. If a peerless expert were to make a move, wouldn't he be able to destroy a planet with a wave of his hand? The 4 enlightening realm cultivators looked at Ling Han, their hearts palpitating. If this attack were to hit them, would they be able to withstand it or dodge it? The 4 of them had no confidence. If they really waited for the attack to come before dodging, then as long as they weren't too far away, they wouldn't be able to dodge at 9 times the speed of sound. If they took it head-on, they would probably be blown to pieces. If they wanted to dodge, they could only stare at Ling Han's hand and judge the direction of the attack the moment he raised it, so they could dodge in advance. Heavenly Rune Jade, the enlightening realm cultivator from the Lu family, said through gritted teeth. He was from a hidden family, so of course he recognized this treasure. So, you're the murderer of Xiaojian, Jin Xiaohuang suddenly said. When Ling Han was within a certain distance, the Go Huachu suddenly reacted, letting him know that the person standing in front of him was Jin Xiaojian's murderer. Ling Han was surprised. Was the other party tricking him? But looking at the other party's expression, he was very sure. Either the other party's acting skills were too good, or they had some kind of treasure on them that allowed them to find clues from the corpse and point to the murderer. Interesting. He smiled faintly. I've already said, I'll kill whoever wants to kill me. Then if I want to kill you now, could it be that you can still kill me? Jin Xiaohuang walked towards Ling Han, a brilliant light surging around his body. There was an indescribable grandeur and majesty about him. Ling Han stood with his hands clasped behind his back. You can try. Jin Xiaohuang didn't rush forward. He was wary of the heavenly rune jade in Ling Han's hand. It was too fast and he couldn't make the first move. Otherwise, even if he could see the trajectory of Ling Han's attack, he wouldn't be able to change his position in time. I'll take your life within 10 moves. Do you believe me? Ling Han said. Jin Xiaohuang couldn't help laughing. This is the biggest joke in the world. He stared at Ling Han, a strange light flickering in his eyes. Then, he said, you only have the cultivation of first bone, and there is a gap of more than 2 major tiers between us. Putting aside the fact that you are no match for me, you still want to kill me within 10 moves? Ling Han smiled. Come, I'll teach you how to be a person. Ignorant fool. Jin Xiaohuang was only 9 meters away from Ling Han. He gave a humph, and struck out with his right hand, pressing towards Ling Han. This was an enlightening realm cultivator's attack. Boom. His palm instantly turned into mountains that pressed towards Ling Han. Absolutely fair. Chapter 34-28. The purple-yellow honey had been used up, and the improvement of Ling Han's physique was now very slow. Although this strong pressure could not compare to the purple-yellow honey, it could still promote the improvement of his physique. He just stood there, not using his secret power, but relying on his physical strength and willpower to support himself. In less than 10 minutes, he felt a huge pressure that made him want to retreat. However, if he pushed himself to the limit, the improvement of his physique would be even greater. He forcibly held on, relying on his willpower at this time. After half a day, Ling Han finally reached the limit of his limits. He took a step back and sat on the ground, panting heavily. Dad, I'm hungry. Dad, I want a hug. The milk babies surrounded him one after another, greeting him. Ling Han prepared food and coaxed the children at the same time. It was more tiring than training his physique just now. It was not easy to get rid of the milk babies. Ling Han heaved a sigh of relief. After resting for a while, he continued to walk up the steps to train his physique. This was indeed an excellent training, allowing his physique to improve very quickly. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. Although Ling Han was cultivating here, the 7 milk babies did not remain idle. They searched through the palace halls one by one. However, although this palace hall looked impressive, in reality, there were not many good things. When the previous owner left, he moved everything away very cleanly and really did not leave much behind. Why was this offering hall still full? It was very simple. This was for the ancestors or the gods. No matter how precious it was, it could not be taken away. Otherwise, wouldn't it be treason? It was not completely fruitless. Second baby picked up a purple gold hammer. When he waved it, there was thunder, and its power could not be underestimated. This was a magic tool, but it was only at the 1-star level. It was still above the celestial path. If it was taken out, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, someone finally came over. Creak, the door of the palace was pushed open, and a group of 7 people walked in. Ling Han looked back, and his eyes narrowed slightly. The 7th prince, the person in the lead, was the 7th prince, Qin Taiqing. Behind him were 6 men and women, old and young, male and female, but they were all 3 steps behind Qin Taiqing. They looked very respectful. He didn't expect to meet Qin Taiqing here. The 7th prince's gaze swept across the altar, and his eyes immediately burned with desire. The treasured fruits on the altar were too precious, and he couldn't help but feel greedy. Then he looked at Ling Han, and his face immediately turned gloomy. Ling Han, I've warned you to keep your distance from Princess Bai Xiao. She's not someone you can get close to. The 7th prince said indifferently. After a slight pause, his voice suddenly became cold. But you treated my words as wind past one ear and past the other. Actually, when he found out that Princess Bai Xiao had spent the night at Ling Han's house, he was furious in his heart, and he simply wanted to charge over to Ling Han's house and slaughter this audacious fellow. Who do you think you are? You are just a dog raised by the Qin family. How dare you fight over a woman with princes like them? Ling Han smiled faintly. He had been ruthlessly tricked by the Jade Heaven Duke, and it was useless no matter how he refuted it. It would only make others think that he was trying to show off after gaining an advantage. The demon princess was really a witch. The next time he saw her, he would definitely hold her down and give her a good spanking. How can you speak to my father like that? Eldest baby said in an old-fashioned manner. That's right, you should be more polite in front of my father, 4th baby chimed in. Kneel. 5th baby also followed. The 7th prince's expression was as gloomy as water. Ling Han had actually sent a few children to deal with him. What kind of contempt was this? Your Highness, let me kill him. A sturdy man stood up from behind him and volunteered to fight. The 7th prince nodded slowly and said, Everyone, spread out. This person's clothes have a formation that can pull those who are enveloped into it to the same level. Yes, Your Highness. The remaining 5 men and women spread out, forming an encirclement. Ling Han smiled and said to the 7th prince, Your Highness, do we really need to fight like this? The 7th prince's eyes were cold as he said, I originally had the thought of cherishing talents. Even though you almost ruined my plans and killed my people, I didn't want to kill you. But you're an ingrate that can't be tamed. If I don't get rid of you today, will I let you grow up? What and what? Ling Han was surprised. When had he ruined Qin Taiqing's plans and killed his people? Was he referring to his marriage with Princess Bai Xiao? You're already so old. Do you have to do this? No, the matter with Princess Bai Xiao couldn't be said to have happened, or almost. It had nothing to do with killing someone. But before that, he had nothing to do with the 7th prince, so how could he say that? He laughed and couldn't be bothered to think too much about it. Instead, he focused his gaze on the sturdy man who was striding over. He activated his eye technique and saw that there was a pattern on the sturdy man's heart. Engravement realm. After changing blood, it was very difficult to judge a cultivator's realm. If they didn't fight directly, how could they determine the opponent's cultivation? But Ling Han had eye techniques and a certain level of see-through ability, so he could see clearly in this way. The ultimate bone realm looked at the bones, while the engravement realm looked at the patterns on the organs. It was clear at a glance. As the world changed faster, engravement realm experts finally began to appear in batches. There were many hidden clans, and now such existences had appeared among the 7th prince's subordinates. Brat, you really shouldn't have made an enemy of His Highness. He's someone destined to achieve great things. The sturdy man smashed his fist over. Boom. Although this person was only at the 1 vein realm, his strength was extremely terrifying. Moreover, his fist was entwined with black energy, which had a powerful destructive effect. Ling Han was startled. He seemed to have heard the sturdy man's words somewhere before. Thus, he didn't attack. Instead, he dodged to the side and dodged the punch. The sturdy man punched again. A thought flashed through Ling Han's mind. He finally remembered. Cheng Hu. When he was in Hidden Tiger City, he had once killed a demonic beast that was wreaking havoc in a village. That demonic beast was not ordinary. It was skilled in spiritual energy, and after it died, it would leave behind something known as a blood god crystal. Later, Cheng Hu had found him and poisoned him with a soul-separating pill. If he didn't have the antidote after a year, he would die. But not long after, Ling Han had neutralized the poison of the soul-separating pill and killed Cheng Hu. However, he hadn't been able to get any information about the big shot behind the scenes from Cheng Hu, so the case had become an unsolved case. According to Cheng Hu, his master was highly praised by him, and he believed that he would be able to establish a great empire. Wasn't this the same as the sturdy man's tone? Moreover, the seventh prince had also said that Ling Han had almost ruined his plans and had even killed his people. Could it be that the big shot behind the scenes was the seventh prince? End of chapter. Chapter 34-29. Ling Han stretched out his right hand and caught the man's fist. Under the powerful impact, he didn't move at all. He looked at the seventh prince and said, "So, the demonic beast outside Hidden Tiger City that was adept at mental energy was yours, and it was also you who raised it. In order to conceal this, you launched a beast tide and slaughtered Hidden Tiger City." The 5 men and women's expressions changed drastically. The seventh prince, however, was calm and unhurried. He said, "You're right. It was indeed me." The man punched again. Ling Han stretched out his other hand and caught the man's left fist. He nodded and said, "No wonder your spiritual power is so strong. It must have something to do with those spiritual-type demonic beasts." The seventh prince laughed. "That's right. I relied on those demonic beasts to increase my spiritual power." "You're really crazy," Ling Han scolded. "They're just some fools. To be able to contribute to my ambition is to fulfill their value in life." The seventh prince said, "It's also you who made me decide to massacre the city. Thus, I collected enough blood divine crystals to push my telekinesis to the great accomplishment stage." "So, you can't escape responsibility," Ling Han sneered. "You're willing to sacrifice everyone in the world to satisfy your own selfish desires. Why look for a scapegoat?" He knew that the seventh prince was ambitious, but he never expected him to be so crazy. In order to destroy the evidence, he launched a beast tide to massacre the city and used this opportunity to produce more blood divine crystals. Why could the seventh prince launch a beast tide? It was simple. Spiritual-type demonic beasts could control other demonic beasts. As long as there were enough of them, they would naturally form a beast tide. With a loud roar, "Purng," he threw the burly man away, causing him to crash heavily against the palace wall. The man spat out blood. This attack was not light, and he was seriously injured. Ling Han, if you had been obedient and submitted to me, how good would that have been?" The seventh prince coldly said. He didn't even spare the burly man a glance. "However, now that I think about it, you're unwilling to submit to others, and your talent in martial art is so terrifying. Sooner or later, you'll rebel. My mistake was that I shouldn't have had any expectations of you." Xiao, a flowery figure, flashed past, charging toward Ling Han. It was the only woman in the 6-man squad. She appeared to be about 30 years of age and was as beautiful as a peach. With a tender shout, she thrust her sword forward. Then, with a shake of her sword, clang, the sword opened up like an umbrella and turned into dozens of thin swords that flew toward Ling Han. Two-veined Ling Han could clearly see that there were patterns on this woman's heart and liver. It was obvious that she had cultivated to the second stage of the engravement realm. He let out a long roar and threw a punch that was surrounded by golden energy. At the same time, he used his most powerful punch, which was a 50-fold attack toward the woman. The umbrella sword was the first to bear the brunt of the attack and was immediately shattered. However, the power of the punch did not dissipate, and it continued on toward the woman. The woman was sent flying, drawing an arc in the air, and fell heavily to the ground. The woman struggled to get up, but just as she stood up, she sat back down. Her face became completely red, as if blood was about to seep out. The seventh prince's expression was as dark as water. Two of his subordinates in the engravement realm were not even a match for Ling Han, which made him lose face. However, even though the environment was rapidly recovering, it was still too short. He did not have enough resources to create an existence in the enlightening realm, except for himself. Could it be that he had to go personally? Then why did he have so many subordinates? Were they just spectators, cheering and applauding? But if he didn't go, how could he kill Ling Han? Moreover, there were so many treasured fruits here. Your Highness, I'll do it. An old man walked out. His hair had all turned white, but his face was extremely red. All right, I'll trouble Elder Gu to do it. The seventh prince nodded, showing great respect to this old man. This old man was called Lu Gu, and he was already over 200 years old. Before the first great change of the world, Lu Gu was already a boxing master. He was already over 100 years old, but he was still able to fight against two young and strong men at the same time. After the great change, he welcomed his second spring. With the help of the treasured fruits, he successfully stood at the forefront of martial art. Because of his exquisite boxing skills, it was not difficult for him to defeat someone stronger than him. The seventh prince had also paid a great price to take him in as a subordinate. He was usually very respectful and called him Elder Gu. A few years ago, Lu Gu had finally entered the engravement realm, and with the seventh prince's full support, he had also rushed to the peak of 5 vein. With his attainments in boxing skills, it was enough for him to sweep through the engravement realm. Lu Gu should be able to do it. Even if they fought at the same level with his exquisite boxing skills, he would not be defeated too quickly. In that case, as long as he could force out Ling Han's absolute fairness, then he would be able to easily deal with this disobedient fellow. Lu Gu smiled proudly and walked towards Ling Han. Step by step, he was like a lion. He was clearly very old, but his body was emitting a shocking amount of blood qi, like a beacon that soared into the sky. Posturing. Ling Han snorted. However, there was a price to pay for putting on an act in front of him. He was already holding the heavenly rune jade in his hand, and was currently infusing it with his mental energy. This would only take a short 10 seconds. Lu Gu intentionally did not move quickly. Instead, he slowly walked towards Ling Han. Every time his footsteps landed, there would be a heavy sound, as if they were knocking on his chest, creating an enormous pressure. This was what he liked, destroying his opponent from the heart to the body. 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. Enough. Ling Han smiled slightly and raised his right hand. Shua, the heavenly rune jade was already tossed out. Under the control of his mental energy, it instantly increased from 6 times the speed of sound to 7 times, 8 times, 9 times. It was as fast as lightning. Lu Gu was instantly horrified. An ultimate bone realm martial artist could actually launch an attack at 9 times the speed of sound? How could he dodge this? If he had known that Ling Han had this move, he would have stared at Ling Han's hand. As soon as it moved, he would immediately dodge. There was a process for throwing out the heavenly rune jade, and it would be enough for him to dodge it. But when the heavenly rune jade was tossed out, the two of them were only 15 feet apart. How could he dodge? He forcefully threw out a punch to meet the heavenly rune jade. It had to be said that this old fist master was indeed extraordinary. His intuition was very accurate, and in the face of death, he also exploded with great potential. He actually managed to throw out a punch in time, and it even met the heavenly rune jade. The old man immediately revealed a look of joy. When he was young, he was known as the Iron Fist. After truly embarking on the path of martial art, he had also invested a lot of energy into body tempering. He even learned a spirit map that could communicate with high-level energy, and his fist force was invincible. So what if it was 9 times the speed of sound? Under his iron fist, it could only be crushed. Bang, the heavenly rune jade smashed into him. End of chapter. Chapter 3430. A beautiful romance. After the heavenly pattern jade hit its target, there was no more after. Lu Ji's fist shattered, then his forearm, and then his entire arm. The heavenly pattern jade was unstoppable, and it smashed into Lu Ji's neck. Instantly, his head turned into a rain of blood. The destructive power of a blunt weapon that weighed thousands of kilograms shot out at 9 times the speed of sound was indescribably terrifying. Bang! Lu Gu fell to the ground, already a headless corpse. The skin on his upper body was completely torn apart by the terrifying force. His flesh was a bloody mess, and it was a horrible sight to behold. Everyone was dumbfounded and completely lost their ability to react. This attack killed a 5-vein cultivator in an instant? What kind of concept was this? With this kind of power, even an enlightening realm cultivator would have a high chance of being killed if they faced it head-on. The 7th prince's pupils shrank rapidly, almost turning into a dot. He said in a low voice, "Spiritual energy ritual implement." As expected of the 7th prince, he had good eyesight. Ling Han nodded and said, "Not bad." As they spoke, 6th baby had already returned with the heavenly pattern stone. The 7th prince stared at the jade for a while and said, "This is a heavenly pattern jade, right?" Ling Han nodded again. "Very good. With the strength of my telekinesis, coupled with this spiritual energy ritual implement, it is not impossible to kill even in the mystery realm." The 7th prince nodded, and a greedy expression appeared on his face. A 2-star material for a ritual implement, even he could not help but be tempted. Ling Han smiled and said, "You're thinking too much. Do you really think that with absolute fairness, I can't do anything to you?" The 7th prince said leisurely. Ling Han did not dare to be careless, because the 7th prince was also proficient in spiritual energy, and it was very likely that his was above his. After all, the 7th prince had sacrificed a city to forcibly push his telekinesis to the Great Success realm. Of course, the Great Success he was talking about was definitely below the immortal path. Go. The 7th prince raised his finger lightly, and with a swoosh, a cold light flashed, and a bright sharp sword shot towards Ling Han. The tip of the sword was still wrapped with golden energy. 7 times the speed of sound. Ling Han's heart skipped a beat. The 7th prince's attack didn't seem to be as fast as his heavenly rune jade, but the 7th prince didn't use any secret force or physical strength. It was purely a telekinesis attack. If he were to use telekinesis to control the weapon, he would only be able to use telekinesis and strength 5 times faster than the speed of sound. The speed would not be calculated as 1 + 1. Instead, it would be much worse. Even so, if the 7th prince first threw the sword and then pushed it with his mind power, he could reach several times the speed of sound. Breaking 10 times was a given. If the flying sword were to attack him at 10 times the speed of sound, would he be able to dodge it? Ling Han moved his body and dodged the sword. He shook his head in his heart. If it was 10 times the speed of sound, then with the distance between the two of them, there was no way he could dodge it. Then what do we do? Although the 7th prince didn't have a heavenly pattern jade, the destructive power of the flying sword was still terrifying. His trump card was actually the other party's strong point. Ling Han searched for a countermeasure in his heart. He instantly had a preliminary idea. Since he could use telekinesis to speed up, why couldn't he slow down? The 7th prince sneered. With a wave of his hand, another flying sword flew toward Ling Han. Ling Han didn't dodge. Instead, when the flying sword was within 15 feet of him, he wrapped it with his mind power to slow it down. You're only burdened with a body full of sins. So what? The 7th prince sneered. For the sake of my ambition, what can I sacrifice? As long as I inherit the throne, I'll definitely do better than my father. He was brimming with confidence because Chen Fengyan spent at least 10 months in seclusion in a year. He only spent 2 months on politics, yet he was able to bring peace and prosperity to Xianbei country. With him as the emperor of Meiji, the country would naturally be even more prosperous. Ling Han shook his head. I thought you were an ambitious and ruthless person, but now I see that you're just a selfish villain. Impudent. The 7th prince snorted and waved his hand. Swoosh, another sword flew over. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. He shot out 13 flying swords in one go. This was incomparably terrifying. Each flying sword had 11 or 12 times the speed of sound. Although there was a difference in speed, it was pitifully small. Ling Han expanded his mind power and wrapped it around the flying swords once again. Buzz buzz buzz. The flying swords seemed to have fallen into a swamp, and their speed instantly slowed down. One by one, they were sent flying by Ling Han. However, Ling Han's fists were also dripping with blood. End of chapter. Chapter 34-32. Ling Han left the palace and did not go to other places. Anyway, the milk babies had already searched, and second baby had even used his eye sorcery, so there was definitely nothing good to be found. In fact, his harvest was not small. An earth spirit fruit, which was used by the ancients as a sacrifice, was definitely valuable. There were also 2 ritual implements and a heavenly pattern jade. Any one of them could crush the current martial art of this era. If he was still discontented, he would be struck by lightning from the heavens. The reason why Ling Han felt that it was not enough was because his cultivation did not improve much this time. It made him sigh. It was not like before, when entering a historical site would always make some changes to his cultivation level. As time passed, more people entered this place. Even if many people could not find treasures, they still lingered here, because if they cultivated here, they would get twice the result with half the effort. Ling Han absorbed purple chi here again. The amount was still small, but the quality was extremely high. He asked the milk babies what this purple chi was. "Father, have you not heard of purple chi from the east?" Second baby said. "The power of heaven and earth is divided into levels. Purple chi is an energy that only existences above the path of immortality can refine. Usually, it only exists in certain specific areas of the mountains and rivers. Father is only in the extreme bone realm. If he can absorb a trace of purple chi, it will naturally help his cultivation." Fourth baby nodded. "The reason why the innate divine body cultivates so quickly and is so powerful is that it can absorb purple chi from birth," fifth baby said. "So that's how it is." Ling Han suddenly understood. He could not help but be envious. It would be great if he could also become a divine body. Father clearly does not have a divine body, but he can absorb purple chi. "This is very strange," eldest baby said. "Yes, if you don't jump through the immortal gate, then you are not fated with the path of immortality. Logically, it is impossible to absorb purple chi." Seventh baby agreed, but as soon as she finished speaking, her eyes began to dry up again, and she fell asleep with a thud. "Is Father also a divine body?" Sixth baby asked curiously. "Let me take a look." Second baby used his eye sorcery and looked at Ling Han. Ling Han quickly covered a certain part of his body. Second baby's eye sorcery had the effect of seeing through things. Strange. After looking at it for a while, second baby's little face revealed a look of surprise. "Dad's body looks no different from an ordinary person's, but there's a big difference. Speak human language." Elder baby glared at him. Second baby tilted his head and seemed to be thinking about how to phrase his words. After a while, he said, "Dad, everything is normal, but when it comes to the level of cells, I can't see through it." The other 5 children cried out in surprise. Only the 7th child was sound asleep. "What's the situation?" "Second bro, didn't you claim to be able to see through everything? Why can't you see through cells at this level?" Second baby spread its hands. "That's true. It seems that there is another world hidden inside." Ling Han was shocked. Second baby was right. There were worlds hidden in his cells. They were nurtured by him personally, and now they contained countless living creatures. That's what makes him so special. In fact, the reason why he could advance to the 7th transformation was because the planes in his cells worked together to form a certain special transformation. Now, it was also the cells in his body that allowed him to absorb the purple aura in advance and possess the same ability as the innate divine constitution. To be able to be our dad, he must not be an ordinary person. Third baby concluded proudly. "Yes." The 6 Calabash brothers nodded at the same time. Suddenly, 7th baby woke up. Ling Han smiled. He carried the fat pig in his hand and arrived at the edge of the cliff. The wooden bridge was right in front of him. Although he had walked through it once and there were many people walking over from the opposite side, Ling Han still felt uneasy. However, There was only one way to leave, so he could only take it. Ling Han walked onto the wooden bridge and walked quickly. Not only was the wooden bridge dangerous, but there seemed to be some terrifying existence at the bottom. He did not want to stay in such a dangerous place any longer. Now, he was the only one walking back. He had brought 6 tender milk babies with him, and he was even carrying a pig. His ostentatious manner naturally surprised everyone along the way. Fortunately, everyone's attention was on the opposite side. No one attacked Ling Han, which saved him some trouble. Perhaps others were also afraid that it would be too dangerous to fight here. After all, it was a wooden bridge. A slight bump could break it, and everyone would fall to pieces. Soon, Ling Han had crossed half the distance. Bang! A gust of air rose up from below and hit the wooden bridge. Suddenly, the entire wooden bridge swayed like a snake. What was going on? The people on the bridge were shocked and involuntarily reached out to grab the handrails. Bang, bang, bang. The air gushed out one after another and hit the wooden bridge frequently, causing it to sway violently. It could collapse at any time. Looking at the surrounding clouds and mist, it was as if they had encountered some kind of sky-devouring monster and were being sucked back in continuously. Second baby looked out and couldn't help but shout, "Father, run quickly. An old demon is about to rush out." Hiss, there were not many people who could be called an old monster by second baby. Without saying a word, Ling Han directly put the 7 milk babies and the perverted pig into the spirit-nourishing gourd. Then he used his movement technique and ran to the other side of the bridge. However, the bridge was in chaos. Some people looked down, some continued forward, and some turned back. Many sections of the bridge were congested. Ling Han did not have time to waste. He immediately jumped up and stepped over the heads of others. "Fuck bastard. Don't run. See if I don't kill you." The people who were stepped on were all angry. Those who were originally planning to run back sped up, while those who were moving forward changed direction and chased after Ling Han. People who practiced martial arts were generally hot-tempered. How could they tolerate having their heads stepped on? As Ling Han galloped away, more and more people joined the ranks of the chase. However, Ling Han's speed was really too fast. He had even used wind and cloud flutter, reaching 4 times the speed of sound, and the sound waves that he created were incredibly violent. Thankfully, his figure was very high. Chapter 34-33. For a moment, no one was in the mood to see who the figure that shot into the sky was. It was more important to escape. The wooden bridge was collapsing, and everyone was running for their lives in 2 different directions. However, many people couldn't run faster than the wooden bridge. They screamed and fell into the abyss with the broken pieces of the wooden bridge. In the sky, the figure that broke the wooden bridge let out a strange laugh, as if it was enjoying the scene. Ling Han increased his speed. Now everyone was running back, but no one was faster than him. He still jumped over everyone's head, and after a few leaps, he finally crossed the wooden bridge. This time, he finally felt a little more relaxed. He looked up into the sky and saw a figure floating there. There were 2 pairs of wings on his back that were flapping. This person's body was covered in feathers, and his feet were a pair of strong human claws. His face was also very bird-like, with a high protruding beak, and his eyes were terrifyingly sharp. Birdman, another birdman. However, this birdman was much more terrifying. Even though he was so far away, Ling Han still felt a strong sense of oppression. This was a suppression on the level of life. No one knew when second baby had climbed out. She took a look and said, "This guy is on the celestial path, but he is only standing on the first step." On the celestial path, Ling Han's heart trembled, and he said, "What level is that?" Second baby shook his head. "My memory is also very vague, I can't remember." In any case, this birdman was extremely terrifying. Currently, only 2 people were on the celestial path, the Demon Emperor and Chen Fengyan. Without these 2, no one could suppress this birdman. Hiss, this birdman had been hibernating in the underground palace, and only came out when the underground palace appeared. Or was he trapped here, and because of some suppression or array, he finally escaped? Ling Han thought of the rat demon in a certain cave. That guy was also trapped here, And who knew how many years it took to finally escape? The rat demon was definitely on the celestial path, but he was killed by Qin Fengyan with one blow. From this point, this Birdman shouldn't be a match for Qin Fengyan. But how could Qin Fengyan be so coincidental as to suddenly appear here? It's time to retreat, Ling Han murmured. He grabbed second baby and ran. I've been trapped for so long, so I can use you guys as a sumptuous meal. In the sky, the Birdman flapped his wings and glanced around. He decided not to go to the cliff. There was no way out, so there was no need to rush. He swooped over, but the wooden bridge was not completely broken. The people on the bridge fell, but he opened his mouth and sucked them into his mouth. He was only 2 or 3 times taller than an ordinary person, but the people he sucked into his mouth would automatically shrink, and he could swallow them in one bite. Thus, he swallowed as he flew. By the time he reached the other side of the bridge, at least a few dozen people had been swallowed alive. Everyone was frightened out of their wits. This Birdman actually ate humans raw, and its strength was incomparably tyrannical. Any attacks that landed on it were like tickles. It didn't care at all and directly swallowed it whole. None of them had the courage to fight, and all of them fled. The Birdman burped, then licked his lips. Don't be afraid, I'm already full. I won't eat you guys for now. I'll keep you in captivity for now. I'll eat you when I'm hungry. He swooped out and began to catch people. Suddenly, people were thrown off their feet and it was a mess. Everyone was running. At this time, they didn't need to run the fastest. As long as they were faster than most people, enough people behind them would be caught by the Birdman. The Birdman changed his mind, and with a swoosh, he flew into the sky. When he landed again, he had already appeared at the entrance of the underground palace. This way, he would close the door and beat the dog. No one would be able to escape. When Ling Han saw the Birdman rise into the sky, he knew that this guy had the idea of catching them all in one fell swoop. He hurriedly left the crowd, scuttled into the bushes, and directly entered the spirit-nourishing gourd. This was a gourd. If it was placed in the bushes, it would be very hidden. He decided to slow down. That Birdman couldn't guard it forever. Father, I'll go out and scout the situation, said the invisible sixth baby. Ling Han nodded. Sixth baby was still trustworthy. Be careful, don't get too close to that Birdman. Sixth baby nodded. Although she was born magical, she was still young. Her battle prowess could only rival those in the engravement realm. She was definitely no match for experts in the celestial path realm. Ling Han waited in the gourd. Fortunately, there was no shortage of food and drink. However, the milk babies were all big eaters. Even the perverted pig could eat a lot, but it could only last for a few days. After half a day, sixth baby returned and explained the current situation. The Birdman guarded the door. Whether it was those who escaped from inside or those who wanted to enter from outside, they were all captured by him. Under threats and promises, they had already become the Birdman's subordinates. In turn, they helped him search for other humans. After another day, the Birdman announced that he had officially become the master of this underground palace. He called himself King Aotion. This was Aotion Palace. All the people in the underground palace had to bow down to Aotion Palace. Those who refused to submit would be killed. Among those who were captured, some were soft and surrendered immediately. There were also those with hard bones who were swallowed by the Birdman. Such a cruel scene frightened the remaining people who were still wavering, and they all surrendered. The Birdman even said that he would organize an army to attack the imperial capital and become the overlord of Black North Country. He would replace Qin Fengyan. According to sixth baby, even the seventh prince had surrendered. This was easy to understand. The seventh prince was an ambitious person, not a martyr. Of course, he knew that a man should know when to yield and when to stand tall. However, even the seventh prince had shamelessly surrendered. This naturally brought about a very bad influence. The news was deliberately spread by the Birdman to build momentum for Aotion Palace. Ling Han did not know how big of an impact this news would have on the imperial capital. However, he believed that the seventh prince would probably not be able to inherit the throne. Qin Fengyan was a proud person. How could he let a coward sit on the throne? He waited for a few more days. Then, he came out of the gourd and swaggered out of the palace. Chapter 34-34. Hey, why is there a gourd? The guards had noticed the vitality-cultivating gourd. There are many plants in the palace. It's normal for a gourd to grow here, someone said casually. Hee, maybe it's a treasure, someone else said, but he himself laughed. It was clear that he was only joking. Maybe it really is. A man in gray walked over and reached out to pick up the gourd. Damn, if thought flashed through Ling Han's mind, and he had already appeared outside. He threw a punch at that person. Peng, that person was only at the ultimate bone tear. How could he possibly be a match for Ling Han? Fortunately, Ling Han did not have any killing intent and only sent him flying. Otherwise, with Ling Han's tyrannical strength, this punch would have definitely killed him. The man fell heavily to the ground, while the other guards were tongue-tied. What's going on? Can this person turn invisible? It wasn't until Ling Han started running that they came to a sudden realization and hurriedly sounded the alarm. After a while, the Birdman appeared. He asked the guards in a deep voice, and after learning what had happened, he said in surprise, "A gourd is rolling on its own, and a living person appears out of thin air. That should be a spatial magic tool. Moreover, it can accommodate living creatures. Such a treasure can only be nurtured by nature. Although I don't really care about it, letting someone run out of Aotion Palace is an injury to my face. Little brat below the immortal path, where can you run to?" Birdman soared into the sky and chased after Ling Han. As he searched, his eyesight was extremely sharp. He could see through the layers of leaves and see every blade of grass and tree in the forest. However, he was disappointed. After chasing for half an hour, he didn't find anything. He did not think that Ling Han could reach 10 times the speed of sound, so he must be hiding. Damn it. The Birdman flew back and gave up the chase. He was just a small character. If he ran away, then so be it. When he conquered the world in the future, this brat would still fall into his palm and become his food. After Ling Han escaped into the forest, the first thing he did was to dig a hole and bury the spirit-nourishing gourd in it. He also entered the hole, and the follow-up work was done by Sixth Baby. When it was completely safe, Sixth Baby would dig out the gourd. Ling Han fled far away. Only when he was thousands of miles away from the underground palace did he heave a sigh of relief and rush towards the imperial capital. A few days later he returned to the imperial capital. At this moment, the imperial capital was in chaos, and everyone was on tenterhooks. Previously, the heaven and earth had undergone the second upheaval, and new historical sites were appearing everywhere, which also triggered the trend of people searching for opportunities. However, the situation of Aotion Palace was not an isolated case. Rather, it was a common occurrence. Immortal path-level beings appeared everywhere, and most of them were extremely ruthless. They either ate, killed, or took in the explorers as servants. Only a few of them were friendly and let them go. It was as if the whole world had changed overnight. So many immortal-level beings had appeared, and they stood at the peak of the martial world, looking down on the world. The mountains all had new masters, and the originally unified Xianbei country was now fragmented. The demon race had not reacted to the situation, and they were probably not in a good state either. Xue Qilua had already rushed back, but Princess Baishao was still in the imperial capital. Many people had fallen this time, including the descendants of the 4 great commanders, Senior Tutor Hong, Yang Bai, and other important figures. The princes and grandsons had also fallen, and many of them had incurred the wrath of many important figures. They decided to immediately send out their troops, but there were too many historical sites. Which one should they attack? Everyone had their own selfish motives. Of course, they hoped to attack the historical site where their descendants had fallen. However, the 4 great commanders had many descendants, and all of them had fallen in different places. Even they had to consider which descendant to save first. In addition, now that the ancient sites were filled with experts of the immortal path, how could they save them? If the Saint Emperor did not appear, who could match an expert of the immortal path? Everyone was in a dilemma, but the Saint Emperor was still in seclusion, so no one could make a decision. Ling Han had no intention of interfering. In front of an expert of the immortal path, his strength was not enough. Even if he went, it would be a waste of time. Early the next morning, Ling Han began to cultivate as usual, but to his surprise, he found that the power of heaven and earth had become much denser. The upheaval of heaven and earth did not only affect the emergence of many historical sites, but also the environment itself. Cultivating in such an environment would yield twice the results with half the effort. And this might just be the beginning. In the future, the environment would become even more suitable for cultivation. Ling Han pondered. In such an environment, the immortal stalks and mutant trees would naturally grow rapidly and provide a large number of treasured fruits, which would increase the strength of martial artists even more rapidly. A few days later, shocking news spread that the sect master of the Purple Rainbow sect had come to the imperial capital and requested to meet Qin Fengyan. What was the background of this Purple Rainbow sect? In the past, it was an ancient site that had just appeared and was occupied by an expert of the immortal path. Now, he had brought a group of subordinates that he had just subdued to the imperial capital to exchange pointers with Qin Fengyan. Exchanging pointers was fake, but the real reason was to challenge Qin Fengyan for the throne. Ling Han went to investigate and found out that the sect master of the Purple Rainbow sect was called Cui Jinhai. He did not look like a demonic beast at all, and should be completely human. It was probably because of this that Cui Jinhai swaggered to the imperial capital. As a fellow human, it was naturally much easier for him to occupy the magpie's nest. The appearance of an expert of the immortal path naturally shocked everyone in the imperial capital. That was an immortal, one that surpassed the realm of humans and could not be fathomed. Although there were rumors that Qin Fengyan had once killed an expert of the immortal path, that was only a rumor. Most people had not seen it with their own eyes. However, Cui Jinhai was a true expert of the immortal path. Under his aura, Yang Bai directly knelt down. In the imperial capital, who could compete with him? Cui Jinhai's subordinates were not all the people he had just subdued. He also had a pair of children. His son was called Cui Zhongyun, and his daughter was called Cui Xiaoxiao. Both of them were in the engravement realm. Cui Jinhai was very low-key. After coming to the imperial capital, he lived in seclusion. However, his children were very arrogant and tyrannical in the imperial capital, causing a lot of trouble. Firstly, they were in the engravement realm, and the number of people who could suppress them could be counted on one hand. Secondly, their father was an expert of the immortal path, so no one dared to provoke them. Bang! The door was broken, and a figure flew in horizontally, landing heavily on the ground. Ling Han jumped out and saw a person lying in the courtyard. Who else could it be if not Xinyuan Dinghua? This guy was very miserable. He had been beaten up. His body was full of injuries, and he was lying there motionlessly. Ling Han immediately looked outside the door. There was a young man with his arms crossed, looking at him with a mocking gaze. Smash to death, smash to death, smash to death. A dignified engravement realm cultivator had actually been smashed to death by a stone. Not only was he smashed to death, but his entire body had also exploded, leaving only his two legs. Hiss, too terrifying. This was definitely not because Cui Zhongyun was not strong enough, but because Ling Han was too terrifying. Damn, this guy was even stronger than Hong Tianbu. At least, back then, it was only said that Hong Tianbu could defeat an engravement realm cultivator in the extreme bone realm, but how could he kill someone with just a raise of his hand? Ling Han walked with large strides towards the place where the heavenly rune jade had landed. Someone bent down and picked it up. The stone was incomparably clean, without a single trace of blood. Again, Ling Han said indifferently. Coincidentally, the person who picked up the heavenly rune jade was Gu Xiangming. This guy was incomparably conflicted because he was holding onto the heavenly rune jade and knew how heavy it was. No wonder it could kill an engravement realm cultivator in a single strike. The problem was, how terrifying did Ling Han have to be able to throw something that weighed 10,000 kilograms at such a high speed? You dare! An ice-cold voice shouted. Cui Xiaoxiao had already walked over. Audacious thief, You actually dared to use a magic tool to kill my younger brother. I will make you pay with your blood." After speaking, she turned into a cloud and soared into the sky, descending towards Ling Han. Her eyesight was extraordinary, and she knew that the reason why Ling Han could kill Cui Zhongyun in a single strike was because of that strange stone. Therefore, she brazenly charged out fearlessly. This time, Cui Zhongyun had challenged Ling Han because of their father's instructions. It was to strike a blow to the morale of the people in the imperial capital, and to boost the Purple Rainbow sect's morale. She never expected that Cui Zhongyun would actually be defeated by Ling Han in a single move 3 times. Not only did it not boost the Purple Rainbow sect's morale, but it also greatly humiliated them. Therefore, she had to step forward now. She immediately boiled her blood qi, and her strength skyrocketed. She communicated with a high-level energy, and a black energy immediately coiled around her slender palm. It was actually even larger than Cui Zhongyun's. The aura on her body condensed into a sword, and she took the initiative to shoot at Ling Han. The aura ignored space and arrived almost instantly. Immediately, Ling Han felt a slight pain in his mind. This aura was like a sword, and it wanted to cut his sea of consciousness. Ling Han was astonished. This was the use of baleful qi. And it also integrated psychokinesis, so it had a powerful destructive power towards the sea of consciousness. So it could be played like this. He revealed a smile. Chapter 34-38. Cui Xiaoxiao rushed over with a terrifying aura, wanting to kill Ling Han in one move. In fact, she was indeed stronger than Cui Zhongyun. Her speed was faster, her strength was greater, and the high-level energy she could communicate with was denser. Although they were only slightly stronger when added together, the increase in battle prowess was not just a little bit. Ling Han was fearless as he unleashed another baleful qi impact. Even though Cui Xiaoxiao was prepared, she was still shaken to the point that her eyes lost focus. It took her at least half a second to recover. In a battle between experts, could half a second be wasted? Peng, she was once again blasted away by Ling Han. Fortunately, without the heavenly rune jade, Ling Han wouldn't be able to kill such a powerful engravement realm expert in one strike. He only managed to injure her. After a few times, Cui Xiaoxiao finally calmed down. She looked at Ling Han and frowned. You reached the 6th transformation when you were in the blood transformation realm. She gritted her teeth. 20 meridians was not difficult, but 6 transformations was difficult. At the very least, she and Cui Zhongyun had not been able to do it. Ling Han nodded. He had indeed cultivated to the 6th transformation. There was nothing to hide about this. However, he would not voluntarily reveal that he had actually reached the 7th transformation. He was the only one in the entire Heavenly Sea Star who had reached the 7 changes, not to mention that no one had ever done it before or after. 6 transformations, blood qi emperor condensation. No wonder it has such a powerful deterrent force, said Cui Xiaoxiao ruthlessly. This additional transformation allowed her to surpass ordinary martial artists. She possessed a divine ability that would increase along with her realm. To other martial artists, such an ability was truly difficult to deal with. Her cultivation was clearly higher, but she was badly affected, causing her to be unable to fully display her strength. Ling Han shrugged and said, "Don't be so emotional. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you." His killing intent surged. Since he had already killed once, he didn't mind killing another of Cui Zhenhai's sons. However, Cui Xiaoxiao raised her hand, and a firework soared into the sky, emitting a dazzling light. Even through the window, it would probably be flashed. She was calling for help, and the biggest possibility was her old man, Cui Zhenhai. Ling Han's expression finally became serious. If an expert of the immortal path came, how would he face him? Run away under the divine will of an expert of the immortal path? Where could he escape to? From the moment Ling Han accepted the challenge to killing Cui Zhenhai, he was already prepared to face Cui Zhenhai head-on. He was betting on Qun Fengyan's domineering attitude. He would never tolerate anyone behaving atrociously in the imperial capital. Ling Han, run! Someone shouted to Ling Han. Yes, Once Cui Zhenhai arrives, you won't be able to leave. You killed his son, so he definitely won't let you off. Many kind-hearted people spoke to Ling Han, telling him to take advantage of this time to escape. Cui Xiaoxiao sneered, "You killed a member of my Cui family, and you still want to pat your ass and pretend that nothing happened?" Ling Han ignored him and looked at Gu Xiangming. "Aren't you tired after carrying it for so long?" Gu Xiangming sighed. He would never be able to take revenge on Ling Han in this lifetime. The gap between the two of them was as wide as heaven and earth. Furthermore, this gap would not shrink, but would only grow larger. He obediently handed over the heavenly pattern jade, not daring to play any tricks. Ling Han received the heavenly pattern jade, put it away, and quietly waited for Cui Zhenhai's arrival. In just a short while, they saw a figure treading through the sky. His speed was astonishing, definitely exceeding 10 times the speed of sound, and he left a long trail behind him. Everyone's divine soul was seized. Treading through the sky, was this an immortal? Xiao, this person landed on the ground. He was about 30 years old, had a slender figure, and had a square face that made him look very dignified. Cui Zhenhai Ling Han thought. That day, the demon rat had also treaded through the sky, but when it saw Chen Fengyan treading through the air step by step, it was incomparably shocked. Evidently, hovering in the air at a slow speed was far more difficult than flying at high speed. If Cui Zhenhai had enough strength, then he would definitely hover in the air, and that would increase his divine might. Immortals were high and mighty, while mortals were low to the ground. Therefore, Cui Zhenhai was not low profile, but his strength was insufficient. "Father!" Cui Xiaoxiao went up to greet him. Younger brother was killed. Cui Zhenhai's gaze sharpened and he said, "Who did it?" Cui Xiaoxiao pointed at Ling Han and said, "It was him." Cui Zhenhai looked at Ling Han and revealed a hint of surprise. A mere bone could actually kill Changyun? He couldn't believe it. The difference in realm was too great. His son should have swept through the inscription realm, so how could he be killed by a small martial artist with a bone? Hearing Cui Zhenhai's words, many people choked. Just now, Cui Zhangyun was easily oppressed by Ling Han, and then he said the fact that Ling Han was in the inscription realm. In fact, many people believed it, because in their eyes, it was already inconceivable to cross a realm to fight, let alone to defeat someone with a higher realm. But now, Cui Zhenhai personally said that Ling Han was only a bone. How could a cultivator of the celestial path say such things? Ling Han was too monstrous. He was weaker by more than a realm, yet he could still kill his opponent in one move. Although not many people had seen Hong Tianbu in action, everyone believed that even that heaven-suppressing monster couldn't do it to this extent. Cui Zhenhai snorted, and the noise of the crowd instantly disappeared. The pressure of a cultivator of the celestial path was too terrifying. He looked at Ling Han, and his brows slightly furrowed. Letting his son challenge Ling Han was his idea. In his eyes, the so-called heaven-suppressing monster and the pride of the empire were simply the bragging of ignorant fools. He had great ambitions, and wanted to seize the Chen family's foundation in one fell swoop. Therefore, he wanted his son to first defeat Ling Han and Hong Tianbu, and destroy the morale of the people in the imperial capital. At that time, he would then defeat Chen Fengyan, and taking over the throne would be a matter of course. Who would have thought that before the weakest, Ling Han, could be eliminated, his son would be killed first? His son was killed, and he was naturally furious. In addition, not only did he fail to establish his authority, but he was also slapped in the face. Naturally, he was full of anger. Since that was the case, then there was no need to beat around the bush. He would personally make a move and sweep everything away. In any case, this world depended on whose fist was bigger. "Brat, you dare to kill this seat's son?" Cui Zhenhai said coldly. "Who gave you such dog guts?" Ling Han's gaze was flat, and he said, "In a spar, death and injury are unavoidable. If you are even afraid of this, what kind of martial artist are you?" "Dog guts to the extreme." Cui Zhenhai snorted. "Still not kneeling for this seat?" Wang, a strong aura pressed towards Ling Han. This was the attack of a cultivator of the celestial path. Even if he didn't use his true strength, just his psyche power, it was still enough to shake the 3 souls and 7 spirits of a secret-seeking cultivator out of his body. To be able to kill with a single thought, this was a cultivator of the celestial path. Ling Han gathered all his psyche power, and using his killing intent as the tip, he formed a fist and punched towards the psyche power. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.